Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Muzzle is Off podcast. This is your host, Nakia Monet. And of course, I got with me another awesome panel for today's discussion. We are continuing our discussion on human sexuality, but we are doing part 2 as it pertains to human sexuality and the church. And I wanted to bring a diverse panel of people on with me today because I wanted to talk about this topic using a diverse audience, basically, and to get different opinions on different sides. So with me, we have Gary, we have Gail, we have Jamel, we have Benita, and we have Marcus. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And let's get started because I really do think that this is something that we failed to talk about, and we failed to talk about it openly, and we failed to talk about it honestly. And being at that, this is the Muzzle is Off podcast. Therefore, we are going to actually truly rip the muzzle off of this topic once and for all. For this month, we really have been focusing on human sexuality as a social construct. And every time I say that, I just want it to be understood that we are literally talking about the fundamentals that literally drives everyone, what is behind everyone's feelings, what is behind your thoughts, what is behind your behaviors. We're not just defining human sexuality as a biological concept where it's just based on your anatomy. You know, men are born with certain parts, women are born with certain parts, but we're actually discussing human sexuality as it pertains to what you see, what you feel, what you think, and how you actually do behave. That's the social construct of human sexuality. And I wanted to bring in the aspect of the church because oftentimes we find that depending upon how we believe, what we believe, and in the belief system and in the belief structure that we are in, we can find that there are some rigid constructs surrounding your human sexuality, surrounding how you feel, surrounding your behavior, surrounding your thoughts. You know, at times you can be taught to just think this one way, and that one way is the ultimate and correct way, depending upon your belief. You were told to behave in a certain kind of way because this is what your belief system says that you should behave. You were told this is how you should feel because this is what your belief system says that you should feel. So I wanted to discuss this and go a little further than where we went the last time, 2 episodes ago, when we talked about human sexuality as it pertains to the church, because I believe that it is an important topic to unpack, and it is an important topic to discuss. So I'm going to welcome my panel members. Welcome everybody. You guys can definitely unmute yourselves. Introductions are done. And let's truly get this started. Let's get this conversation started. So I basically gave the general broad overview of what I truly do want to talk about as far as human sexuality and the church. Does anyone have anything that they want to just jumpstart this whole conversation with?
Okay, I will. Good evening again, everybody. This is Benita. So one of the things I was thinking about when Nakia mentioned this to me, I do think this is a long overdue topic. And I'm so thankful that she has the courage to actually take the muzzle off this particular topic because, like I said, it is really, really long overdue. And when we start talking about sexuality and as it relates to the church, a lot of people kind of get squeamish, and don't really want to address the issues in full totality as it should be addressed. We want to kind of skip around it and play around it over here, but not really just delve right into the meat of the matter, which suggests, and this is just my personal opinion based off of my experience, if you will, with the church, where as it pertains to sexuality. So I'm 52 years old. So I came up in a time when, we were taught that, stay away from boys. Boys are bad. And if you like boys too much, you were considered to be a fast girl, And so even within that particular mindset, I don't know if they knew it, or they couldn't have known that they were actually shaping sexual identities even then by saying girls stay away from boys, boys stay away from girls. But what happened in my case, you just made me more curious to find out, why are boys so bad? Why do we have to stay away from them? So you mean tell me if I like a boy, that automatically means I'm trying to have sex with him? So that was the mindset they put, that if you liked a boy, or if a boy liked you automatically had to be thinking about sex. Even when you were 10 and just coming into being teenagers, that was drilled in us that, girls stay over here, boys stay there. And I don't know if in one sense they were saying stay away from boys because you might want to have sex, but then if you keep pushing all the girls together and then you push all the boys together, then you're creating a different kind of sexuality, because now you're telling boys you're only supposed to be with boys, and you're telling girls you're only supposed to be with girls. So in that era, we didn't know what the heck to do a lot of times. Me, I'm the exception to the rule. I want to find out, what is it about boys that's so bad? So I think it comes from, when we talk about sexuality as it relates to the church, I go out on a limb and I say this all the time, not as an indictment, but this is true. The church have done a disservice in a lot of these areas, and sexuality is one of those areas.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely can agree with that. That, a lot of the times when you place such rigid rules surrounding children, you're actually shaping them for how they're going to interact as adults. And we cannot continue to ignore that, because that's part of the reason why we have a lot of adults today that grew up in such rigid constructs of sexuality are so confused even now, as far as their sexuality, as far as who they are, as far as, lacking even in self-control, and, a bunch of other things that really go on. So, I really do think that is important to understand, that even to give it the context that you gave it, as far as when you were growing up, how, everything was prefaced like, okay, no, you can't go over there with the boys. You got to stay here with the girls. And no, boys, you can't go over here with the girls. You got to stay over here with the boys, and the boys got to play with the boys, and the girls got to play with the girls. And at what point in time do you learn how to coexist and commingle and, build upon a bond and a relationship with the opposite sex, as opposed to just building bonds within the same sex? At what time do you build the bond with the opposite sex, so that you know how to interact with the opposite sex, so that you know how to speak to the opposite sex, so that you know how to even attract the opposite sex, so that you know how to even possibly be intimate with the opposite sex, so that, you begin to cultivate these things. And when you don't have that, and you don't have the ability to do that, it then, basically it produces other issues. You know what I'm saying? You have people that don't know how to communicate. You have people that don't know how to interact. You have people that don't know how to relate. You have people, and it just produces that, and it just goes on and on and on into a bunch of nonsense. And then you got grown ass children running around here. I mean, that's what it is. True. That's what it is. Because at the end of the day, you hear it on both sides. You hear men get sick and tired of meeting these immature women, and then you hear it from the men. You hear it from the women. They're tired of meeting these immature men, and it's because of that. And then we can continue to unpack this, but I think that was good of what you said about how when you were growing up in the church. Did anybody else? I didn't grow up in the church, so I can't speak to that. Which is why part of me is happy that I didn't. But anybody else that grew up, I ain't even gonna lie. I am so happy. I was not raised. Nope. Lori wasn't having that. So anybody else that can speak to that?
I was raised in the church.
Well, go ahead and speak then.
I was raised, and I think that I had a great upbringing because we had a leader who understood certain things. He understood not by education, but he understood just by wisdom that there were things
Mm-hmm.
that we needed to nurture our kids into. I came up under the Archbishop Roy Brown, the late Archbishop Roy Brown, and he had a way of dealing with us as children. He had a way of teaching us what was right and what was wrong, as in not basically setting down rules, but allowing us to know that if there's anything we feel, we can come to him and speak about. We can talk
Mm-hmm.
about. There are ministers that are around who we could talk to, and that was big because churches that were around in the 80s, they didn't hear too much of children talking about how they felt. They really weren't concerned about feelings. They were concerned with protecting children, but in that time, what they consider protection more so hurt kids than protected them. And I can understand wanting to keep children away from sexual predators, wanting to keep children away from people who will take advantage of the situation. But there still is a responsibility to address the growing sexuality of your children. People would criticize him because we'd be in the back of the church and we'd be there talking like kids talk, talking about D&P, and he overheard it one day, and he got up there in the pulpit and he said it is not DICK, and it is not PUSSY. What you have is a vagina, and what you have is a penis. We will address these things correctly, and even in small things like that, he was concerned that we had the correct information. And it's crazy because in church, in most churches, I should say, there is a restriction on the information. And without the information, you tend to grow the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
Information is to the seed. And if that seed with information, the seed might still grow, but it'll grow deformed. It won't grow the way it should. It won't grow with the ability to produce what it was meant to produce. So I just feel like growing up in my church, he gave us room to speak about how we felt. He might not have always agreed with how we felt. And what he would do, if he didn't agree, he'd tell you, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Tell me, why do you feel this way? What's going on? And my thing is, at least he was concerned enough to have the conversations. He was concerned enough to try and understand, even when he couldn't understand because his thinking was dated. And sometimes in church settings, the thought process is dated. Mm-hmm. And I always said the church seems to always be the last to catch up on anything. We seem to catch on at the tail end after everybody has done everything. Right. So it's just, my thing was, he also did something very special in staffing his weakness, mm-hmm. where he knew that his limitations, because of his age and his era, would stop him. He had younger preachers around him who he could trust. He had younger ministers around him who he could trust and say, "Hey, I don't know how to address this. How do we talk to our kids about this?" And in turn, it helped grow us in a very special way. Because we grew up ahead of our time. And then when I left Pilgrim and went out into the world, I felt so sheltered because he protected us from all of the craziness and all of the predatory actions of others. And then when you get out there, you're like, yo, this is how y'all really act? This is how y'all really do things? And they're like, no, that's not the right way. This is the correct way. And they couldn't understand it because they didn't have the same upbringing. They didn't have the same socialization. So it was like, wow, like, is this how we really teach our kids? Like, is this it? Do you get smacked in the mouth for asking a question about sex at 14? When your body is telling you I'm ready? When your body is expressing that, hey, I have come to the point where it baffled my mind because we had it so good. We had it so good. And Pilgrim was a very progressive church in the 80s and the 90s. I mean, extremely progressive. And so now I look and I go, wow, man, it's something, because I look at the church today and I'm like, the church hasn't evolved. It hasn't progressed. There are a few scattered around, but on the large scale, it hasn't evolved. It hasn't progressed. They still seek to have control over sexuality. They seek to have control over how you think, what you feel, how you can do, and then they'll manipulate the scriptures to fit what their belief system is. And then what happens is we are damaged by your unbelief, by your lack of faith, and by your lack of direction.
Yep.
And here we go, and we start talking about the devil got our kids. No, the devil don't have our kids. Your lack of teaching has our kids. Your lack of understanding has our kids. Your lack has our children. Locked. So that's what I'll give. That's my point.
Anyone else?
I think he made a very good point in stating two things. That we are behind in the time in the church. And then the other point is that his pastor at that time staffed the church with other leaders around him that can speak to the needs of the young folks in the building. And I think that's one thing we don't think about within the four walls of the church when we're in the actual building, that we have creative ideas. We do jobs in the regular world that can help in the church. One of them are therapists and sexual and sex therapists and, different things that pertains to sexuality. Kids have access to it at school. I know when I was in school, you had sex ed. Your parents had to sign a note, sign a permission slip for you to sit in the sex education class. And so as the body, as the church, we need to be giving our children proper sex education from anatomy all the way up until, how I feel in interaction into the first relationship. There's going to be some trial and error with our children in that, but when we give them the proper information, they won't make as many bad choices. One thing I teach when I was working as a teen parent advocate, I had the beauty of being in the program because I was a teen parent. My daughter is now 23. But when I was interacting with my students and when I was interacting with other people, I will always say to them this: you have to trust what you put in your child, that they will reach back into it and grab it and use it at times that they need it. And we in the church have not trusted what we put in our children when they were growing up. If you had them in church on a daily basis and they were sitting under the word and they was listening to the word and they was watching you pray and they was watching you read and they was watching all of those things, you have to trust that when they get in situations that they will reach back and grab those things to pull them through even when you're not there.
I agree.
All right, I've been silent. I gotta be honest. I feel like the church, and this is coming from a PK, I feel like the church is the process to find out what your sexuality is. I'm gonna just be honest. A lot of behavior, and I'm not talking about, well, I don't want to talk about sexuality. I want to talk about the behaviors of it, basically, because I feel like sexuality comes from what you like, you know, how you feel, like what's going on inside of you. But I feel like behaviors is learned through what you see, what you hear, you know, what's around. I do feel like a lot of times people are baited and or I don't know how to use the word, like, I don't know what's the proper word, like, or trained, let's say that, trained in the church. As far as whether it be first lady, you feel me? Like, you know, talking to the, you know, musician, or maybe somebody, you know, I feel like all these things as far as sexuality is all, it's everywhere. It's in the church. Like, it's just like, I feel like it's just the making of it constantly over and over. Like, it's either you gay or you straight, or you just struggling a little bit. We're gonna help him. We're gonna pray for him. And, you know, we're gonna see him through. We're gonna see him through. So I feel like that is basically where the make or break is, where you really find out if you grew up in the church, what it is personally. And the control aspect was what I was picking back off from what he said.
So when you say trained, what exactly do you mean by trained?
Trained, like me. All right. So I'm taking the muzzle off. I'm gonna put myself in the and well, I'm gonna put, you know, myself transparent. Myself transparent, as my dad would say. Me, I remember I love to sing. Singing is one of my favorite things to do. I couldn't be in the soprano section. Duke could not be a soprano. Duke, I don't care what nobody has to say. Men are not sopranos. Men are not altos. Men are tenors. Men are this. Men are that. I feel like it is, you're deemed automatically to be something that you're not because you like certain things that are not normal. You feel me? So it's trained, meaning that, okay, so your parents tell you, okay, you're not singing in the soprano section. Then you got Sister Dubois telling you, man, forget her. You come sing to the glory of God. You come give God praise. And then your mom was like, no, he not singing. I feel like it's just, the more you fight, you know, how you feel, and the more you fight, you know, what you want to do, it causes you to want to do what you don't want to do. And I'm not saying that, you know, you being a soprano automatically deems you to not be, you know, straight or whatever. But I'm telling you, it's, that aspect is where it starts, where you start questioning, well, am I gay because I want to sing on the soprano section? Or am I really straight because, like, you know, it's those things that you go through. So that's just honestly what it's more, you know, more personal.
No, I get what you're saying, because it's basically like, because most times when you're in a church, when you're in a church type structure, you're a boy, you're a man, this is what men are supposed to do. And if you are a woman, this is what women are supposed to do. So if you're a woman, go over there, well, we right here, go over here, and you're going to be in the soprano section, and they're going to be in the alto section, and you're going to carry that tenor note, no matter, even if your voice is really and truly high.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying, because basically that's the rigidness that I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you have rigid constructs within the church that basically tell you that there are certain things that you just cannot do, because that thing, that whatever it is that you want to do, would typically fall for the opposite sex of what you are. That then can shape you, and in your mind, without people even knowing it, to say, well, hold up. I mean, I'm not this way, but this is just something that I like to do. But okay, I can't do that because I'm not this. Oh, okay. So now I need to go force myself to do something that I don't necessarily want to do.
Right.
And now I'm being dragged into a direction that I don't want to go into, but because of this preconceived notion that, well, if you do that, then people are going to view you as being homosexual. They're going to view you as being soft. They're going to view you as being not normal or different, you know, and that's the part of it that, and I'm not going to say that it's every church or every belief system, but it's widespread and it's wide known, like, you know, that there are specific gender roles. You're not going to be the pastor, nurse, and you a man.
Right. You're not doing that.
And you're not going to be the pastor, armor bearer, if he a man and you a woman. It's just there are certain roles that we have in place. You know what I'm saying? And okay, if you're a man and you want to praise dance, okay, but you're gonna be part of the mime ministry. What you gonna do?
Right, like it's crazy.
So what you trying to do? You trying to twirl up in here? Because no, you ain't twirling nowhere. Not doing that part. So what you want to do? You want to mime? You know what I'm saying? Or you want to do some version of maybe a Lecrae song or something like that. That's what you want to, you know. But those are the things that we do, and we do it, and we don't even realize that it's undercut. You know what I'm saying? And we don't realize what it's actually doing to people. You know what I'm saying? Forget whether or not they actually are homosexual. Forget whether that doesn't matter. It's what we're doing to people to shape how they view themselves. And then we have a lot of people that run around here with a repressed sexuality. So because they're so repressed in their sexuality, then they act out in different ways. You know, they act out by sleeping with every single last woman that's in the church. They act out by sleeping with all the men that are in the church. They act out by marrying this one, but still sleeping with this one. They act out by drinking. They act out by smoking. There's so many different ways in which people act out because they are so repressed in their identity. You know, because the truth of the matter is who you are at your core. That is your identity. Who I am at the core of me is what I present out to other people. So if I'm walking around here and I'm repressed, and for me to have to fight to try and show who I am, but I can't show exactly who I am because who I am is not acceptable. So now I got to hide who I am. So now I'm living in a secret of who I am. But deep down inside, when I go into my good dark place, this is what I'm doing. But when I'm in front of you, no, I'm not going to show that part. So I could be a womanizer. I could be a beater. Who said wait?
I think you said something that triggered something in my head. Which is you were talking about repression and oppression. You know, ultimately repression and oppression leads to possession. And I'm not talking about demonic possession. What I'm talking about is when you project your weaknesses onto someone through a label, when you project your weaknesses onto a person through your experiences, what you do is you repress how they feel and dominate their feelings with your feeling and program them with your feeling about what you feel. And in turn, this person loses their identity within themselves. And they're like, okay, I know I like this, but you said this is wrong. And you're saying that it's wrong because that happened to you, but that doesn't necessarily have to happen to me. So now what you do is you present in a conflict to a child. You present in a conflict to a teenager, and sometimes to adults. Some of these adults are walking around with so much inner conflict because you rob them of their identity. You rob them of their ability to make a choice, you know. And when you do that, there's a difference in training somebody up and raising somebody up.
That's right.
Bishop Brown always used to say, I'm not raising you. You raise animals. You train children. And a lot of children have been raised, and we've been raised in dysfunctionality. We've been raised in someone else's failed experiment. And what happens is you project onto us how it went for you and don't even allow us to have a time to find out how it would go. There's a difference between me and you. There is a uniqueness to me and a uniqueness to you There's a uniqueness to your decision making. There's a uniqueness to your choices and to mine.
Yep.
Just because we have the same situation does not mean that it's going to present the same. It's not going to. I'm not going to choose the same choices you chose because I'm thinking with a different mind. Train me by looking at my mind and thinking how my mind would work in that situation, and not how your mind will work in the situation. Just give me some options.
Right.
Hey, listen,
Right.
I don't, because I'll even tell you this. Bishop Brown, even though he was very good in it, raising and training us, there were times where he made choices that did damage people. Like, no, son, no, no. Peace. He was a stern but loving man. And when he said no, he meant no. But sometimes his no overrode a person's ability to grow, ability to find out about themselves, ability to explore who they are. If we don't give kids and teenagers and adults room to explore their own feelings, investigate their own feelings, find out what's going on inside themselves, if all they can are robots and automatons being told what to do, then we have ultimately failed them because, God forbid, when you leave off the scene, they don't know how to act. They don't know how to. They don't know how to move. They don't know how to flow. They don't know how to handle. They're manipulated by everybody. They're taken advantage of by everybody because you have not armed them in the way of making better choices. But all you have done is repress them, oppress them, and in turn, when you oppress them and repress them, they get possessed. Someone comes in and dominates them in some way. Dominates them where, no, you can't do this. I'm going to do this for you. No, I'll make the choice for you. No. And that's what, and unfortunately, it's almost like it's a psychological rape.
Mm-hmm.
But are we allowed, just to ask you a question, as the younger generation and our teenagers and our, younger adults, are we allowed to express ourselves? Are we allowed to, you feel me, see what we like or what we don't like? You feel me? Like, I don't feel like we have that luxury. Like, the black, as far as the black Christian household, I don't think that we have that luxury to, be ourselves and find, what we do like and what we don't like. I don't think we have that luxury.
I would have to absolutely agree with you. Hi, everybody. I'm Sade. I was on last week's panel, so I'm definitely happy to be here. But I would have to agree with you that is really the inner and outermost root of it, is that these people are being robbed of their self-expression. And it's, for me as a Black trans woman, that is an element of my life that I told my family and I understood for myself was not in their control. When I came out at 11 the first time, I was 11 telling my mother, I understand that you're unhappy about it, but you have no license to my self-expression. You have no license for how me as a flower reacts to photosynthesis from the sun. You have no license. You have no license to how I am going to unfold as a story, because I am the author of this life, not you. So you are not in control of my self-expression. And no matter how much you put your hands on me, no matter how much you try to mentally enslave me, it does not take away from the fact that of two very important things. One, your control over me is temporary, boo. This will be over at some point, and eventually I will have the ability to outwardly express myself beyond your control. That's point number one. Mm-hmm. And two, you have to understand that we get to a point as in our the relationship that we have as child and parent, where you as the parent have to step out of the way as my manager and assume the role of consultant, because you cannot manage an individual's identity. And no matter if you carried this child, no matter if this is of your stock and of your blood and however you want to call it, you do not have a license to these babies' identity and self-expression. And that's exactly why these young men lack compassion. That's exactly why these young ladies lack self-care and respect for self, because they have not been taught to express themselves in ways that they identify with self-care for them singularly. So, you know, it's deep-seated, it's deep-rooted, and you know, I'm half Native American, half Ethiopian. My mom's side of the family was Jehovah's Witness. My dad's side of the family is Southern Baptist. So I can really speak to the Bible and religion and congregational settings from a well-rounded perspective. And I'm one of the freedom fighters, you know, who was up against that type of shit from the jump, just because something in me was so innate. When you match my innate spirit in what the universe just generally blessed me with as an individual, with intangible access to light, and you pair that with the tangible education and knowledge that my mother gave me access to, those are the two things that made me be able to be an 11-year-old saying, hey, mom, you don't have a right to my self-expression. Hey, mom, this is not your place to direct my growth as a flower. So these babies, a lot of times, don't have an advocate. And I'm one of the lucky ones who had, you know, fierce advocacy for self. And one of the younger ones who, you know, was born as an old soul and could tell my mother at 11, 12 years old, hey, you know, what you're telling me doesn't match up with what you're saying. I mean, with what you're doing, excuse me. You know, baby, you got excommunicated, girl. What are you talking about? I'm not sure that you are exactly the first person that should talk to me about morale and expression, because if we're going from religion, if we're going from a religious perspective, the same people who throw the Bible on you seem to forget that the contents of that Bible remind you constantly that God is love. And that sin is just sin, boo. You know, of course, there are things that are huge sins and small sins, but just generally speaking, you know, stealing some candy and shooting somebody in the head both get you a ticket.
For real.
You know, so I think it's a really well-rounded and long-winded answer, and well-rounded what I just gave, but the short version of that, to bring it around full circle, is that parents just don't have rights to anybody's self-expression, and you guys don't own your children. Yes, you help bring them into this world, but you do not own them, and they absolutely have a right to be individuals and to grow however they do.
I think it's embarrassment too, because in that process of you trying to find yourself, a lot of embarrassing things can happen. So, and especially when you're in a vicinity with me, knowing being a PK, everybody in your business. I don't give a fuck, but everybody in your business. So it's a lot to find yourself and find out what you want to. Life is all about lessons, and it's all about, you know, finding what makes you comfortable, what makes you feel right. So I feel like if you feel like you feel me, chill with a dude and be locked up and lock lipping, do you. If you want to be chilling with a female and y'all doing what y'all do, and you do you. I feel like everybody in this vicinity, and I feel like if everybody's so against the homosexuals and the lesbians and everything, stop asking them to direct your choirs, stop asking them to be your praise and worship leaders, stop asking them to beat your face, stop asking them to pick you out a fire outfit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's accepted when it benefits the person, or when it benefits the run of the church, or it benefits, you know, it just benefits them. Like, it's not, I'm not feeling that. Like, I'm not, even being a PK for years. Oh, well, dude, you can't hold the orphan basket, but you can riff up a storm. You feel me? You can go up there and you can riff, and you can have a good old time and get the house jumping and growl and have a moment. No, like, I feel like it's just it's too much. Like, church, honestly, me being a PK and being in the church, really, I had to literally stop going to church to find the Lord Jesus God in Christ. Because I feel like we put a bad name on Jesus Christ as far as the Christianity church goes. I feel like we put a bad name on God.
So let's
Basically,
go back. Let's unpack that. You said that you basically had to leave church in order to find God.
yes.
What were you finding while you were in church?
A bunch of bullshit, mess, foolishness. This one sleeping with that person, this one doing this one doing that. It's a bunch of confusion. When it comes to the building of church, it's a whole bunch of confusion. And it makes you not even want to go.
Remember, I said that last week. Remember, Nakia, when I said one thing that I think that we have to remember when I noted and brought up as far as the queer community and the LGBTQIA plus community, I mentioned that most of us know God and are closer to God than probably half the people in these buildings, because we wrapped our minds around the ideals and the theory that the church is within you. You know, so that statement resonates with me, you know, in terms of, you know, I found God and found that space to love and care for within myself in a place of stillness, you know, not in a place of social gathering, not in a place of, you know, all the things in church. So, I mean, I identify with it, but as I said, having Jehovah's Witnesses on my mother's side, you know, Southern Baptist and Kojic on my dad's side, it was astonishing to me having a bird's eye, well-rounded view on the shit that y'all do at home, you know, and it made everything very distorted for me at an early age, and that's where the whole let me just march to the beat of my own drum because all y'all motherfuckers is crazy.
Now, what I will say is, so I know for myself, I had to, even for myself, take a step back and step away from the building, not away from God, but from the building, in order to, just like Duke said, to really find God and not be so enamored in a building and people and doing a lot of pomp and circumstance for nothing, because it was a lot of it was vain. It was repetitious, and it was emotionalism, and it had nothing to do with an actual true move of God. But what I will say is that now, in the place that I'm in right now, with my heightened awareness to what actually goes on, I believe that it makes it easier to spot things out that don't actually line up with the actual word of God, as opposed to becoming a part of what doesn't line up with the word of God. And I bring up these topics to not, like Benita said, indict the church, but I bring it up so that we can become aware of what we've done. And it's not all bad, you know what I'm saying? Because it's not all negative either, because the church has done a lot in order to help, in order to restore, in order to heal, you know, in order to redeem, you know what I'm saying? And in order to uplift and encourage. But we do have another side that the church has hurt, and we don't like to address the hurt. We just want to address what's good, and we don't want to address what's not so good. We don't want to address the issues, and we don't want to address the problems. And one of the biggest issues that I have seen in the church is in the realm of human sexuality. Because, like I said before, when you teach people that they cannot be who they are due to words that are written in a Bible that quite possibly are being taken out of context, and then you place these rigid rules surrounding how you ought to live, how you should live. This is what I think you should do. This is whom I feel you should date. No, don't date him. That's not him. No, don't date her. That's not her. No, you can't get married to him or her because that's not who God has for you. I see a vision of who God has for you, and he's tall and he's this, and you waiting 50 years for this tall person to come up and show himself or show herself, and they don't never show, and you sitting here single trying to figure out, well, I guess I'll be married to the Lord. No, you sound stupid. That's what you sound. You sound utterly stupid thinking that you're going to be married to the Lord. He's married to the church, not you. Okay? And we do that consistently and constantly within the church world. I mean, I've seen it where women, like I said, I wasn't raised in the church, and I don't say that to slight the church. I just wasn't, and I like my upbringing. I came into the church as an adult, but there were women when I came into the church, women that were telling me, no, I was told I'm going to marry a bishop. I'm going to marry a pastor. That's who. And I've been raised this way. And I'm like, well, what the hell? So you have no other aspirations in life but that. And it's mind blowing to me because I'm like, I wasn't told who the hell I was going to marry growing up. I just, my mother was just like, listen here, I'm going to show you how to be a woman. I'm going to teach you how to do this, that, and the third. I'm going to teach, listen, you need to learn how to cook. You need to learn how to clean, because if you ain't got nobody, you got to learn how to do this stuff for yourself. But then if you have somebody, it'll be an added benefit unto him and you, or whoever the heck you choose to marry. I was raised in that realm and in that aspect of, no, you can go to the movies. What are you going to watch? It better not be no rated R movie, because I'm not allowing you into no rated R movie. But you can go to the movies. Oh, do you want to go bowling? That's fine. Okay, you can do this. I wasn't raised in the where no, you can't go to the movies. No, you can't go skating. That's the devil. Oh no, you can't watch this on TV. That's the devil. No, you can't listen to this. You can't listen to this music. Oh, that's the devil. Oh, that's gonna be a gateway to this, that, and the third. I'm like, the church got so many goddamn gateways that they forget that one of the gateways is their damn doors.
Yep.
Once you open that door up to the public, it is a gateway. So you want to tell me everything else is a gateway? What the hell? What am I supposed to do that's not a gateway? Besides listen to you pump a whole bunch of foolishness in me about gateways and all this other extra stuff. I said, these folks sound like a freaking marijuana commercial. It's a gateway drug. You don't want to start smoking marijuana because it's no gateway drug. You know what I'm saying? But that's what it sounds like for me, being on the outside coming in. All of that crap just sound, and that's why they always say, oh, you rebellious. They call me so many damn names in the church.
You know what, Nakia? That rebellious word irks my nerves. Oh, you got a rebellious spirit. She kind of my Sunday about. No, child, please. We're not giving that. That's
a control mechanism they use.
I feel like that too.
Yeah.
Oh my God. When I tell you I've been brought to the altar and listen, it's not I don't feel like it's a rebellion. I feel like listen, God, cool. I don't know what to do. That's where I was at. Listen, God, I don't know what to do at this point. All right. You let me know. Is that all right? Am I all right? What's the tea? Because at this point, I can't. It's one person saying this thing, other person saying this thing. I don't have time for it. It's just too much. I feel like we as the church and as the body of Christ, we have to worry about the person and also worry about the feeling. Yes, a lot of people, especially when you're coming, when you're straight, just coming fresh out from the world and you're, the world, you can't just oh yeah, well, the spirit of rebellion is very popular, when you first come into the Christianity, so just fight it. We're gonna do that. We're gonna fight it. No, how about I just honestly want to figure out what the hell is right for me? It is what it is. Listen, the church is crazy. I'm over it. And I've been doing it with it for years. I'm over the church. I'm so over I'm not even talking about this church. I'm talking about the four walls. I'm so over it. And I'm so glad that God shut this down so that we can look at ourselves and instead of these pastors and bishops who sleeping with so-and-so, okay, y'all, please. I'm over it. But you want to come tell me that what I'm doing is not right. Please, girl, have a seat. What's your fake ass?
Yeah, and you know what, Nikita, it's ironic you spoke to that particular mindset about how, and it is very true, because I am one of those that was raised and started to be groomed at age 14 to actually marry one of the bishop's sons that I went to school with.
Wow.
The thing was, I didn't like him. I didn't like him. I didn't like him at school. I didn't like him when I saw him at church. I had nothing for him. And so at 14, I was given a position in the church where I was actually over 3 different churches' youth department as their secretary.
Mhm.
Because again, that was part of the grooming, is that you had to know how to work in the church, you know how to work the administration of offices, you know how to get in there, and you know how to do this, you know how to talk before people, you know how to interact with different people. So at 14, I'm like holding the books to 3 different churches, youth departments, and I still don't even know what my name means at this point. You know what I'm saying? I have no real self-identity except for what they were telling me in the church, that this is who you are in the church. You are called of God in the church, or you're going to marry a bishop's son in the church, which in part one day he'll grow up and he'll take over his daddy's church. He'll be the bishop and you'll be his wife. So at 14, that was like drilled in my head. So I was working, doing my job and all of that, and I would go around and visit the 3 churches, or when we would have the Southeastern District conferences, all of the youth departments, they would have to report to me so I could make the reports. Now, again, I'm 14. I'm 14 years
Mhm.
old.
Right.
So, and keep in mind, they're still telling us, boys over here, girls over there, because boys are black. So now I'm confused. You told me you're grooming me for a boy, but then over here you tell me boys are bad. So with the way my inquisitive mind works, now I want to know why boys are so bad. So I found myself super, super interested in boys, just super interested. So by the time I was 15, going on 16, I wound up getting pregnant.
That's where it starts.
I'm
Telling you.
still holding my position in church. My dad was still one of their biggest contributors, even though he did not actually go to that church, but he gave a lot. And so when they found out I was pregnant, here's what they asked me: who's the father of the baby?
Oh
Not
Lord.
how I'm doing, not anything spiritually, inept to where I could have any counseling or anything, nothing like that. They wanted to know who was the father. And when I told them who the father was, he was not an AME boy, he was a Baptist boy. Those of you that actually grew up in church, you already know all hell broke loose when I had to tell them, no, this boy is not AME, he's actually Baptist. And back then, I don't care what they're doing now, they can pretend like they all get along with each
Uh-huh.
other.
Yeah,
Back
they can act like that
you
bullshit.
knew, you knew AME didn't keep up with the Baptist too regular, because we had a certain mindset. It was about the money and the prestige, who you were, who your parents were, who your people were, where you come from, what your last name was, all of that
Can you
stuff.
sing? Can you, yeah, all that?
What were your gifts? Were you
Ooh.
smart? Were you intelligent? Can we use you over here? Can we put you with this person? So yeah, they started grooming us at a certain age to do things that we didn't have the choice in. And the way I feel like, I think why they got angry with me was not just because I got pregnant. Here's what her speech was. So they waited till my parents were not home. When they came to my house, the youth department leader came to my house, knocks on the door. So I got a little baby bump. I wasn't showing much, but I did have a little baby bump. She says, "Oh, honey, open the door. I already heard." She said, "I just came to get the book." So I said, "Well, you want to come in?" She says, "No, I don't need to come in. I just need to pick up all the books, and I just wish you well." And she walked away. So I'm like, "Well, what does that mean?" She was like, "Oh, well, we can't have you representing the church you know, in this manner. We have a lot of young people that look up to you, and basically, you know, you've let us down. So we really don't want you to come back right now,
She probably
because
making a mess though.
we don't want the other young people to feel like your condition is okay. I said my condition.
Condition,
I
child.
said, you know, like, so now I'm 15, 16. So now I'm starting to learn a little bit more about my body, but I'm still not understanding the process of what's happening to me. You know, I come from, my parents had 8 children, and I'm last to the baby. So I guess by the time I came along, my parents was done talking to have done with the sex talk, and they was done with the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees. Child, they was over all of that. So they was just like, look, don't do it, okay? You do it, you die, you know. And you can't just put that kind of challenge out
Die.
for children. Yeah, you do it or you die. You know, you can't put that kind of challenge out there to certain kind of people, because you have not taken the time to understand, like one of your other guests was saying, you know, it didn't matter how much you beat me. It didn't matter, you know, the fact that you open-handedly slapped me in the face, you know, and then you beat me so bad, I literally had to wear a long sleeve for 2 weeks in school in Florida, you know, and so,
No,
and
I feel like that's where the actual spirit of rebellion kicks in. Honestly,
yeah,
the actual
yeah,
spirit of rebellion kicks in
yeah,
is where you reach for help
yeah,
and you're just like, and you express how you feel, and you're like,
yeah,
well, I'm feeling this kind of way, like I don't know what to do, and it's not like
yeah,
you're coming, and it's not like honestly, and it's not like it's certain people coming from people who I know who have came out, and you know, it's not certain people coming being like, well, I'm gay, this is what it is, this is what it's gonna be, and you have to deal with it. No, it's more of a, I'm not understanding what's going on,
right.
and I am trying to really see what to do. Like,
Hmm.
is this, am I, because, like, I don't care what nobody say, like, you automatically, if you don't understand something, you go to your parents, regardless if they were horrible or not.
Yeah,
You go to them because it's just like, you've seen them, how they raised you, what they did, what they haven't done, so you think that they know it all. And so you
yeah.
get, like, 15, 16, and you like, these, but you
But
know,
you don't know that's about to get you a beat down. You don't know.
yeah,
You
like,
don't know these questions. I think, like the other guy said, you don't know that asking questions about sex and sexuality is going to get you slapped in the face. You know, you
mhm.
don't know that it's going to get you beat to the point where blood is literally coming from your arms, from the webs, from the belt. You know,
But
you
that
don't
That's
think
why,
it.
and that's when I feel like a lot of people, not, you know, what I talked about, the dating process and or the process. I feel like when sex all around is just an uncomfortable topic to speak about. Period. Well, not uncomfortable for some people, because I know I'm very comfortable speaking
Right.
about it, but it's, I feel like the parents are, like I said, doing a disservice to their children or people in general, because I feel like once you don't address it, whether it be heterosexual or homosexual, both, if you don't address it and address the feelings,
Yeah.
then it could lead to so much worse. I feel
Yeah,
like,
'cause then you're
you
gonna
know,
start sneaking around
speaking
and
around and or trying to take it
you
because
know,
they can't get, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a lot of things that, I mean, come on, I'm being real, y'all. Like, I know this is the, you know, the Church of God in Christ Muzzle show, but I'm being real. I, I'm being real. No, like, that's how, and honestly, that's how I feel like a lot of rapists. I feel like a lot of
right.
child molesters. I feel like a lot of people are, you know, being made up because we don't know how to address these certain things.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to be that they're liking somebody else. I saw something on TV, or that just was like, and I felt something weird, or I don't know what this means. Like, we now, I feel like in this day and age, we have to honestly, truly, like, have a whole different narrative on how we address certain things, because
Yeah.
I don't want to see what happens when I turn 30. Like, I just don't. I don't.
Yeah.
So I would say when it comes to parenting, most parents they train their child or raise their child, however you want to say it, based off what they do know.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, sometimes the only thing the parents know was, I had a child young, you're not going to have a child young. What does that mean? they're raising you based off their fears.
Yeah.
And a lot of what was done to some of us as kids, because I grew up in South Florida too, so I know about those beatings.
Yeah.
It's inevitable, you know. It's not that I wanted it to happen, and I've had the experience of parenting, and I've had to caution myself as well. Am I going to be the parent that my mom was? Because my mom was a fantastic parent, and my mom parented me out of what she knew.
Right.
And it wasn't until I was out doing my own thing that I came back and I understood some of the things that she said. Sometimes too much exposure isn't good. Sometimes no exposure isn't good. But how are we to know what's that healthy medium?
Right.
You're right. We do need to talk about sexuality. We do need to have these conversations. But let me tell you something. It's 6 of us on here right now. Each one of us can handle a certain conversation about a specific topic at different levels. Where we're talking about sexuality now and we all can handle it. Well, some of us can't handle responsibility. That's just not our thing. We mature in different areas a lot faster. And so it's hard. Sometimes it can be very demeaning. Yes, it can rob us of who we are going to be. Because I tell parents now when I work with kids, like, look, you can only train your child. They're going to go make their decisions. If they choose to go down this road, it's not that you're a bad parent. It's because they had to make a choice. It doesn't mean that they're not going to come back from it, because as someone said earlier, they're going to remember those lessons that you taught them. They have to come to their own conclusion. They have to come to their own space. Keeping them from that conclusion and that space, yes, it reflects based off someone else's perspectives. But there are some fantastic parents out here that are parenting their children out of fear because they don't want their kids to experience the struggle. Most kids won't understand that until they grow. Yes, it's wrong, and yes,
I
it's
agree.
right.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it either. Growing up, well, yeah, I didn't understand. I always thought that either they were just OD mean or they didn't want me to do anything. But now, being an age where I kind of am getting my own, I thank God for a lot of the things that they have instilled in me. Because if it wasn't for them, then I probably would be on somebody's somewhere most wanted list, something, I don't know. Yeah.
I do agree.
Go ahead.
I do agree that parents a lot of time, although they do mean well, they parent out of their own fears. They also project their own experiences onto us. Like I said, my mom and dad had 8 children. I've never seen my mom with another man, never seen my dad with another woman. They stayed married till death did them part. And so, but y'all had 8 kids. So how is it that if I'm a teenager and I'm wanting to know about sex, why do I have to look outside my house to have this conversation when clearly either you or daddy or hell, the both of y'all can come together and talk to me because you got 8 children. You were sexing at some point or another. I don't care. Even if you don't like each other no more, you liked each other enough to get 8 children.
But the question is, like, okay, so in order to, I just want to center it back around the actual topic, which is human sexuality as it pertains to the church, right? If we understand parenting, right? We understand the way in which our parents raised us, or whatever the case may be. Some of our parents literally raised us within the confines of the church. So therefore, in our household, the structure was based upon biblical principle of what they thought was right and what they thought was the way, right? So therefore, my question would be, is this, then how can one, or how has, or how does the church literally affect human sexuality? Because if you were raised within the confines of biblical principles and biblical understanding of man, woman, this is what you're supposed to do. You are not supposed to fornicate. You should not commit adultery. You definitely should not be raping anybody. You should not be laying with people just to lay with them. That the actual concept and the actual construct of sex was for the exact purpose of procreation, in order to create beautifulness of this good world. So therefore, when you're raised in that level of understanding, and this is what this is, and you don't quite add up to that, how does that affect your ability and how you view yourself and your human sexuality? Was it, did you just accept it and it was like, okay, that's fine, you know, and I can't do this and I can't do that, and it's perfectly fine, I'll just wait until I'm married? Or did you reject it at some point in time and begin to say, I gotta discover this for myself? I get
But
what
Kia,
you're
you
saying.
try, girl. Trust me, you try to live up to that good old book. Ooh, you try, and you try to do the thing, or you know that they tell you that is, you know, okay, or what that's, well,
What's
yeah, okay,
acceptable.
yeah, what's acceptable. You try to do the
Yeah.
thing, but listen, when God talk about that good old flesh, honey. I think it's just that's a good question.
But the question is it really your flesh, or is it who you
what
are?
we want to do? What we want to do.
So
You know,
can I answer that?
sure.
Here's the point.
I would like.
So I'll jump in on this point. So I think the answer to your question, just to make this an I statement and to make it, you know, singular to me, for me, I think that, again, these are parts of, we're speaking to an area of you that generally it's created to be autonomous, okay? The things that make us all individuals, the things that make us all unique are supposed to be autonomous. These things should not be controlled or puppeteered or directed through the eyes of whoever is raising the individual. So for me, again, I understood that, again, you don't have a license to this, but I think that the whole idea of the church as it relates to human sexuality is another construct to kind of keep a community construct going. You know, it's a construct within a construct within a construct, and it's an extreme action behind raise a child in the way that it should go and it'll be good, or whatever they say along those lines. It's an extreme idealism to it, because I'm gonna be quite honest with you. Every PK I know, every PK I know that's a woman had kids before they was 18. Every one of them that I know, okay. Every man PK that I know was either gay or they were a hoe. Or they were a hoe. Every single one of them. There is not one PK that I know who's on the straight and narrow ever in any situation. And that's just my experience. That's not to say that this may be the case for all of them, but I'm saying in my,
for the ones you know,
every PK that I ever knew, whether man or woman, had some issues that were of the world early on. So again, I think what we need to start doing is really putting emphasis on individual critical thinking and decision making, and allowing these children to navigate on their own in terms of who they are. You know, of course, I think the conversation as far as sexuality is concerned needs to be based around the exchange of energy and all of these other different things that come along with it, STDs and da. But I just think that to direct these babies in this way through the church as it relates to human sexuality really convolutes it, because like the gentleman in the middle up top said, then these people don't even really know how to speak to what they're feeling. They start to feel like the things that they feel are quote unquote weird, or quote unquote I feel off, because you have been trained to believe that your thought processes that are natural and that are autonomous for each individual is somehow distorted and separate from what is supposed to be right. So again, as I'm not sure who said it, but as again, you then create this conflict within children that should be for adults. You understand what I'm saying? Between birth and about 14, 15, you should just be a flower, baby, and should just be able to soak everything up that you know and see and hear and all of those things, and then be able to, make a decision. And earlier, if your psyche allows that based off of your comprehension and then your communication, it's different for everybody. But generally speaking, I think what is missing is critical thinking. At the end of the day, no matter the age, we all have free will. We all have choices. And you do not get to control choices. You have to teach critical thinking so that these babies make sound decisions.
Marcus, well, actually, wait 1 second. Don't forget your thought, but I know Gail had a point beforehand. So let me go to Gail and then Marcus, but don't miss your thought, Marcus. Go ahead, Gail.
Okay, I'm gonna try and go back. There was a lot just said, and I'll attack that I'll discuss that at another time. But what I was going to say was this. I was talking to God today about this particular conversation that we would be having today. And he said to me that we don't even know ourselves. And every day on this life journey, we're discovering who we are. That's what he told me today. So I wanted to drop that little nugget. But then I wanted to go back and answer Kia's question. I think when you grow up in the church, and I grew up in the church and out of the church, my dad was the minister of music of several churches. So he played around at a lot of different churches, and I was his tag-along buddy. So from about the age of 5, I was emceeing services for him and things like that until about 28, 29, where I was actually emceeing his appreciation service, and then I was hard in the church. When I originally I got saved at 8, and then this is an interesting story. I got saved at 8, tagged along with my dad in church. At 14, I got pregnant, had my daughter. And then about 17, I went back into church because I've experienced some trauma, and I was just searching for an answer. But at that time, I also knew that I liked women, right? And I tried to do it the way that I thought it should be done because I didn't want God to be mad at me. Right. And some of this we have to take off of the people at the church and just say from my perception and my experience from what I was hearing, because at that time I was just discovering the Bible on my own. And I needed God to give me revelation, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of his word. And sometimes if you don't study that thing for yourself, you're not going to get that true understanding of the word. You're not going to really understand all the different parts of the Bible, the history and the contextual context in which it was written in. And so I at 22, 23, I just decided to have a conversation with God. Like, God, I like women, and I'm going to live in my authentic truth. But I found out that liberated me, that freed me from the religious confines, if that makes sense. Because then I can have a real conversation with God, not trying to cover myself up. I could be naked and exposed. I could be naked and exposed in front of God, and he knows my whole truth. And I can have real conversations with him and not feel guilty.
Mm-hmm. But was there a point in time when you did feel guilty?
I don't know per se if it was guilty.
I sure did.
Or,
Not gonna lie.
I don't know if it was guilty or me just trying to find the right way so I can please God. My thing wasn't trying to be what everybody else wanted me to be at that point. I just wanted to please God. I was young. I was a babe in Christ. You have this zeal about God at that time, and you want to do everything. You almost want to be perfect.
Yes.
To please God and not people. And the only information that you're getting at that such young age, it's like when you're in school and you believe everything your teachers teach you until you get into college and they start making you teach yourself.
See, but that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that you within yourself had to learn who you are. And then you had to come to a realization between you and God by yourself and say, you know what, God, this is who I am. You know, this is who I am. And I'm trying to please you. I'm trying to follow your ways. I'm trying to live in the way in which you say I should live. But according to what is written, is not lining up with how I'm identifying.
Right.
And how do you become, and what I'm going to ask is, how do you then become at peace with that? Because you will have an entire group of people basically telling you you're going to hell. And then,
that's what it was for me.
I think I became at peace with that. And if I'm just totally transparent, me and you had a lot of conversations around sexuality and homosexuality and being in the church. And I had a lot of conversations with God. And I'm going to tell you what my prayer was. God, if this ain't right, if you don't want me to be in love with women, fall in love and have not. See, I'm not talking about the little taboo thing that we see out here, because we have to realize that there's a taboo thing that we see out here too, where people that just, oh, I like girls this week, I like boys next week. There's a taboo side to it that we have out here. But I'm talking about people who authentically identify as LGBTQIA+. And that's just who they are. And I said to him, I said, God, if this is not your will, and if this is not your way, and if I'm in error, deliver me. That was my prayer. And even when people ask me now, they say, you don't feel no conviction. I said, let me tell you this. I've prayed this prayer. And when God sees fit, he will deliver me out of this. Ain't no much oil that you could put on me. You can speak in tongues as much as you want. You can hook a Messiah all you want. But until God deliver me, one thing we have to remember. I'm starting to feel good now.
Yes, come on, give it to us, girl. Shit, yes.
One thing we have to remember, one thing I always point back to is when Jesus Christ was on the cross and he had the two thieves on the side of him. There is always a chance for him to deliver you.
Just that quick.
Like that. If he sees fit. And he can also say this is going to be a process and you're going to have to walk it out. But whatever way he chooses, it's him who makes the choice. And when we realize that it's him who makes the choice and not no pastor, not no bishop, not no prophet, not no evangelist, not no teacher can snatch you out of the hand. Only God can do that. Only God can deliver you out of whatever your sin is. And we have to, as people, as the body of Christ, remember that one person plants, the other person waters, but it is God that does the increasing. It is God that does the delivering. It is God that does the setting free of people. People can't set you free. The only one that can set you free is God.
But what about the ones that basically say, well, if he hasn't delivered you, it's because you didn't want it?
No, but that's no. Now, you know, my mother's the queen of saying that, girl. You know that she's the queen of saying that. No. Like, that's tricky because it's like a part of it is like if you really don't want it, or you know what I'm saying, or I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like if you really, I don't know. Wow, I'm so stuck because I know what I want to say, but it's not coming out right. So I'm gonna let somebody else speak. But I know what I want to say.
All right, think about what you want to say, Duke, and come back and say it. Go ahead, Marcus.
I would say I agree with some of what she said, and then some other stuff I'm on the fence. As far as being delivered from something, you're right. It's going to take God to deliver you from it. But I can say for myself, there's some sins that I love to indulge in. And when I mean I love to indulge in, I love to indulge in. I had to stay away from those environments. I had to stay to myself. I had to put myself in places where I wouldn't give in to my own temptations. Now, that's not for everybody, but that's for me. And for my walk with God and where I'm headed when it comes to God, it is a process. And a lot of people, I'm not going to say that. Some people believe they have a misconception of healing. Some healing happens instant. Some healing takes a long time. Some healing is short term. But some people, they're not really in need of healing. They might just need to be made whole. But it all depends on what you're experiencing, what you're going through. I don't know. Only person's background I know here is mine, and I know where I come from, and I know where I'm heading. And for me to get to where I'm heading, I had to be like, "Hey, God, I need your help with this." Like Gail said, I need your help with this because if you don't deliver me from this thing, yeah, this thing is going to overtake me because I know my vices and I love some of those vices. When I tell you I love those things to a T. But I wanted a different lifestyle for myself. And so therefore I created some boundaries, and I asked God to bless those boundaries and to show me the way and keep me on the path of where I'm heading.
So I want to say this, and then I'm going to be out. And I want to say, first of all, thank you so much, Nikia, for having me.
You are welcome.
You guys are doing a really, really wonderful job on this particular topic of discussion. But what I want to say was, I can recall when you talk about human sexuality and the church and all of that, you cannot dive into that particular subject without going back to say, these were my experiences. This is my history. This is what I was taught. This is what I caught. Some stuff we were taught and some stuff we caught. We caught because we saw y'all doing it, we saw the hypocrisy. We saw all of that. And again, not to lay an indictment against the church, but what the church did not teach us, out of all the good that they did teach us, the one thing I think, this is just personal experience, they did not teach us, and I found this out later on after I got divorced. And when you have been in that realm for so long, where you've been boxed in and sheltered and all of that, you can say, well, how did you have a baby but you were sheltered? Trust me, it's easy when you're in like that. And trust me, they was spilling on each other all on the church bus downstairs in the basement, so that's neither here nor there. But so the thing about it is, what they taught us was how to trust God. They taught us, oh, God can deliver you. They taught us, oh, call on the name of Jesus if you want to be healed or you want to be saved. If you want to be delivered, come up for prayer. But here's something I learned later on in life. I was in a situation. Let me tell you something. I love a man. Okay. all day. I love them. I think they the best thing that God ever created. If God created something else, he kept it for himself. All right. That is not true, honey. You know, and so after I got divorced, you know, coming from straight out of high school into marriage and married for 20 something years to a preacher, you know, I didn't have a lot of experience out there in the world per se. I didn't have a lot of dating experiences. So one thing I decided to do, I wanted to get out there and date, see what it was like. So full transparency, and I know, you know, I've shared this on my page. Some of you share it on your page. You know, you got to know me to know I don't really care. You know, I was seeing like 5 guys at one time.
Yeah.
I was sleeping with them all, but I just wanted kind of see, you know, what was all the hype about. You know, I had been cheated on. You know, I want to know what was the hype about. How does it feel to have more than one person? I want to get out there and see all of that. Now, keep in mind, I'm still a pastor at this point. I was still a pastor, but I wanted to know that feeling because I never had that chance because I went from high school to a wife. No downtime in between. And so first time I left out my father's house was to get married to the man I would spend the next 20 something years with. So here's the thing, first would say, well, if you want to do this, I tried to call my mom and talk to her about it. I was like, Mom, I was like, girl, my head, I lost my mind. She was like, what you doing? I said, girl, you want to know. I said, was this, we gonna pray. So she prayed and take away that desire to have.
Benita, I think your phone is, I think
you know, in my life. I remember talking. Okay, can you hear me better?
Yeah, now.
I'm on my laptop. Okay. And so real quick, I just want to share this. One of the things I was talking, when I talked to my mom, she said she prayed, and that I'm not saying prayer doesn't have power. Don't misunderstand me now, because I'm a recipient of the power of prayer. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But when I talked to God about my situation, I was like, God, please just take this away from me. You know, I didn't realize men would fall in love too like that. I was like, God, I don't want nobody to get hurt. I don't want to get hurt. You know, then I got into a situation where 2 of them were stalking me. I was like, God, just please take this away from me. You know what God told me? He says, Benita, I can do all things except work against your will.
That's deep.
I want you guys to think about that, because we're so conditioned to think, God, you want to get delivered, just have somebody pray over you. You know, you want to get delivered, call on the name of Jesus. You want to get delivered, cry out to God, ask God to take it out of you, tell him to take it. You know, I had that same mindset. God, if this is not what you want me to do, you know, give me a flat tire next time I go see him, or give him a flat tire. You know what I'm saying? I would say all of that. And God would consistently tell me, he said, I hear you, but I'm looking at your heart and I cannot work against your will. And so God knows things about us that we may not be able to face ourselves. Sometimes we'll say we want out, but honey, sometimes in feels a lot better than getting out at that moment. And so we have to come to the realization to say that we got to stop saying that when God gets ready, because God never wanted us into sin in the first place. Let's just be honest. The thing about it, we have to come to recognition to say, I'm just not ready to let this part of my life go because I like it.
Yes.
It's what I want to do.
Well,
okay.
Gail, I want to, 1 second, Gail. I'm going to thank Benita for joining. I thank you so much for coming on. I thank you for even, you know, spending this time with us, and for you providing your input. So I truly do thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Now, I'm going to say this because I don't care, right? Because I am me and the muzzle has been off. So
yes,
because it's just some things we have to understand has been distorted through translations. Okay. And the bottom, I do a lot of research, and if I am not going to speak without actually looking things up. And one of the things that has always been, and Gail knows this because like Gail said the truth. Her and I have had a lot of conversations concerning her sexuality and how it relates to the church. And Gail, I'm just going to go out there and say we've had these discussions because there had been times when Gail would be like, you know what, I'm just going to be girly. I'm going to do this and I'm going to date men. Right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
the truth. It's the truth.
I know you
understand what I'm saying? And, you know, it was never satisfying. Right. And it always left, they would, you know, it wasn't satisfying. I'll put it like that because I ain't sharing nobody's business. However, through things that I have researched for myself, which I'm not saying that the Bible is wrong. What I'm saying is that the way that it has been translated over time, some of the context, the original words have been translated to mean something that it did not originally mean. And so one of the verses in the Bible that had been translated over time to where in our Bible, it calls out the word homosexual. However, if you take back the translation and you take it all the way back into the Greek, right? And you then bring it forward, or if you just take it all the way back and then you actually go and try to study other Bibles that have been translated, like in other areas, not the United States, but other areas like German, right? One of the things like Leviticus 18 and 22, where we read it, it says, man shall not lie with man, for it is an abomination. But in a German version of the same verse, it says, man shall not lie with young boys as he does with women, for it is an abomination. Leviticus 20 and 13, it's the same type of translation. It says young boys. So there are certain words that have been translated, and the truth of the matter is homosexual did not actually make it into our Bibles technically until I believe it was around 1946. So we have been conditioned to believe certain things based on a translation that did not even show up in the Bible until 1946. So
yeah, I have a question, but I'm gonna let you.
I just want to add something onto that point really quickly, because it came up in conversation yesterday, and what everyone should understand and acknowledge is that we came before the language. Okay, humankind and human construct and human biology, we existed before the language. It would be different if the language existed before us, but we existed before the language. So for all intents and purposes, we influence language. Language does not influence us for all intents and purposes. So I think that is something that is great to note, and I celebrate you for even bringing that up just now, Kia. But because at the end of the day, what came first, the people or the language?
Right, and I think that
you can't say that someone is a homosexual and that's what the Bible said when they weren't even calling us that 1,000 years. You know that.
So what is homosexuality like? And well, of course, we know what
it's
the
a
hell
construct.
homosexuality is.
It's a pagan European construct that has been set into place to oppress people, generally speaking.
Like, but what I'm trying, like, I really want to know, like, what is like everybody's definition of gay and or homosexuality? Like, even though, of course, exactly what it is, but you know what I mean, like.
What do you mean by everybody's
own? The definition of it is same sex, technically speaking. But
yeah, but I mean, I think that she knows what I'm trying to say. Like what I'm saying is that are we basing it off of what it is, like what the actual meaning of homosexuality is of like men and men? Or are we basing it off of the actions and or what you would say I forgot the word you used, construct or whatever the word that was said. Yeah. Is that what we're basing it off of, or are we basing it off of both? Because I feel like a lot of people, you know, this can really be, you know, broadened out deep. We can get into, you know, people who are openly gay, people who are, you know, down low, you know, it could be, you know, written both ways. So I'm just trying to figure out what is the actual, like, you feel me, like the actual situation? Are we just talking about men with men, or it's just basically just all around?
No, because homosexuality, it just means one that is attracted to one's own sex. So
Right.
that's all it is. And that's all the truth of the matter. That's all we're really talking about. What we do is that we then break it down into men with men, and then then you call women with women lesbians.
But let's
and then
be
you have,
clear. Let's be clear. Let's be very clear though. Sexuality and sexual orientation are not the same things, okay? Sexual orientation is who you go to bed with. Sexuality is what y'all do in that bed.
I don't know if I ever looked at it that way.
You know, culturally speaking, the term sexuality has been attributed to homosexuality or lesbianism or transhood or all of those things. But sexuality is how you express yourself within the parameters of sex. It has nothing to do with necessarily who you are attracted to. Your orientation and how you identify is where gay, lesbian, homosexual, and all those labels come in. But just to be clear, sexuality is not necessarily the correct term if we're talking about it, because that sexuality speaks to what you do within those parameters, not necessarily the identity that gets you into those parameters.
Yeah, I could get with that as far as sexual orientation and homosexuality. I could get with that.
All right. So what do we say to the person? What do we say to the person who is just feminine and not really with all that? You feel me? Dealing with the whole other, with the same sex. Since we're talking about human sexuality, can we?
That's expression.
I agree with you. I agree with it being an expression. But my whole thing about it is, since we're speaking of, I feel like it's a negative connotation with, as far as when it comes to the church and homosexuality, when it comes to your choir director or your, or the person who I guess plays the part of being gay, if that makes sense. But little do you know, it's people who are active in the church, deacons, ministers, all that, who literally are just like niggas or just like females, but is getting bent over and they legs up. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the thing. Okay, it's the truth. So I'm just like, I'm trying to just figure out, like, because this conversation could get deeper because it's a lot.
But that's what I'm talking about. That's why I
think I understand. I think I understand what you're asking, and I just want to expound on what I said a little bit. Like, what you have to understand is just because something is one thing does not necessarily mean it's the other also. I'm going to give you an example. Yeah. Just because a man is necessarily masculine doesn't mean that, he may not behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Like to be dominated and feel feminine.
I feel that.
Or just because you just because there's a trans woman, that doesn't necessarily mean that they were gay men in their prior life, because there are absolutely trans women who are lesbians who are only into women, whether they're cis or trans. But I really think that it's about wrapping your mind around that gender identity, which is, what you identify as. There is a difference between that and how you express yourself as well. And just because you identify as a man does not necessarily mean you have to express yourself as such. And just because you express yourself differently, just because you express yourself differently than the way society says, quote unquote, a man should express themselves, does not necessarily then mean that person is gay. And that's where that's what needs to be abolished. We need to stop calling things that are just human. We need to stop attributing those to sexuality. Just because a woman is more masculine doesn't necessarily mean she's a lesbian. Just because you see
I
a
agree.
trans woman doesn't necessarily mean she was a gay boy before that, and so on and so forth.
No, I definitely can agree with that, because one of the things that we do struggle with as a society as a whole is the labeling of people into what we think that they are, due to how we view what they are actually doing, or how they are acting, or just based on our own perceptions of life on other people. But that's part of why I'm saying is that, so the first question being, how has or does the church affect human sexuality? Part of what we touched on was the fact that sometimes within these confines of religion, and based on what you've been taught for years handed down, it can truly shape how you view yourself, as far as how you view your own self and how you identify yourself within your own sexuality. Because like you just said, there could be a more masculine woman, and she can be viewed as being homosexual, but she's not. She's just masculine. There could be a feminine man, and he's not homosexual. You know what I'm saying? He's not bisexual. He's not anything. He's just more, feminine. But we place these labels on people because that's exactly what we are used to. One of the other questions that I did have to ask for, as far as the panel was concerned, was, can the effect in the church be both positive and or negative? You know what I'm saying? And
yes.
Go ahead, Marcus. What you say?
I will say yes. I believe Sade said this earlier about people need time to become and blossom that flower. One of the things that I don't believe the church does well is understanding that some people are going to leave, and they're going to go live their own life. So we never prepare for a person to leave, and we never prepare. And I can't say never. We should be prepared for people to come, but we don't prepare ourselves for people to leave. And so that's where it's negative. Understanding that, look, I'm not your savior. I'm just a part of your support system. I'm here. Hey, I'm walking my walk. I'm doing my thing, trying to do things the best I can. And because we don't prepare people to leave, sometimes when people leave, we take that as an attack. And so how does anybody respond out of hurt? They're going to attack. And that could leave a negative taste in a person's mouth. So that's why I say yes and no.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. And here, like, I do believe that sometimes, we do have to, Sade said this, that we have to train children and even adults up in the art form of critical thinking, analysis, how to make decisions for your own self, and then how to allow them to make mistakes and learn from them and then pick themselves up, right? And oftentimes what I found was that in the church, you place so many different rules around everything in order to shelter you from being able to make a mistake. How else shall you learn? How else will you mature? How else will you grow if you don't grow through the growing pains of life? And how do I make decisions? How do you tell me wearing red lipstick or red nail polish is of the devil? Well, what? I like red. Red can be my favorite color. You understand what I'm saying? And right. when you actually read the Bible and you see that all the words that Jesus spoke with in red, I'm like, well, shit, is red really that bad? Because his words is highlighted in red, and y'all telling me, like, I would never forget that. Like, I had fire engine red hair, and they were like, that's not acceptable. I'm like, red hair is not acceptable. So now I got to go change my hair color because this is not acceptable. I couldn't wear high-heeled shoes. No, you can't wear high-heeled shoes to church. You're a minister. You got to wear flat shoes because that's a distraction. You're going to cause someone to stumble. Well, if a person has lust in their good eyes and heart over some heels and something, they got a shoe fetish. Why should I suffer from my shoe wearing abilities because some man in his eye is thinking something different with these good high heeled shoes on? Why does that have anything to do with me? No, you can't wear a suit that fits you. You're going to have to go up one or two sides. That's when I got fat in the church. I got fat in the church because them niggas had the audacity to tell me that I needed to wear a black suit 2 sizes too big. And I had to, and in my mind, I said, you know what? Well, I got to fill it out because it ain't really fitting right. So next thing you know, I start eating at the buffet with everybody else. And goddamn it, Duke tell the truth. Hello, Duke, you know.
Bro, that suit was a little bit too big for you.
Listen, got fat and everything. Over here trying to follow these good rules, got fat and look homely like everybody else. I ain't lying, it's the truth. I did, looking homely like everybody else because I was told that I had to literally suppress who I am in order to fit into this mold of what the good Baptist church said I was supposed to look like. Because I was in that good Baptist church, honey. And you know what? And I learned a lot. But one of the things that I forever regretted was that part of it, because I should not have conformed to that. And I should have just stood my ground and said, well, I guess I just won't be no minister here because I can care less. But that's the part of where I'm saying that's where the negative effect comes into it as far as the church is concerned, because you cause people to suppress who they are in order to fit into a mold that truly is not who they are at the core of them. No, do I believe in walking around here and being all, showing off everything? I mean, at one point in time in my good life, I did, but I knew how to dress it. I'm just saying I did. Did I not, Duke? See, Duke met me when I first came. See, I've been knowing Duke for a very long time. Duke,
I bet when she was fresh. Oh!
Fresh. Before the water.
Yeah, listen, way before the water. You hear me? Duke met me. I was in my good 20s coming up in the church wearing whatever the hell I felt like wearing, because that's what I was wearing. Yeah. And that's how I felt, whether it was low riding jeans, whatever the heck, shirts all the way down to here, cleavage.
Them short skirts, child. My mother had to come rob you up a couple times, honey.
But it's the truth. You know what I'm saying? It's the truth. She showing up there, wrapped me up a few times. She's like, baby, this is a distraction. I was like,
no, but with that, Nakia, right. But see, it was like that to the point where she didn't do it in a way where she made you feel uncomfortable as fuck. She didn't do that. But that's my whole thing. Okay, if you're telling me that me fucking another nigga is wrong, if you're telling me that that's wrong, right? Okay. All right, cool. But like, you feel me? Do it in a way where you're helping me and educating me to make me feel, okay, well, maybe this is not the right way. If that's, feel me? Because I have my own little situation on that, but that's how I feel like. I feel like it's just, it's always a judgmental thing, and it gives the person it doesn't allow the person to want to even be delivered or want to even be like in the vicinity of anything.
But see, here's my thing, and we keep going back to this word deliver, and I don't necessarily, I'm going to be honest, I do not like to talk about anybody's sexuality in the form of something that they need to be delivered from. And that is me. I don't agree with it. And that's just where I'm coming from. So I don't want to discuss sexuality as something that you need to be saved from.
No, absolutely not. I don't think that's what it is. I'm just basically saying if this is what you're saying that is wrong to me, you feel me?
I get what you're saying.
If this is what you're saying, don't say it or don't bring it to me in a way where I won't be able to hear you and or receive you in a way, if you're trying if you're trying to get me to if you're trying to get a person to be saved, you're not gonna be like, yeah, because the end is coming and but some people do that. But you're more likely to get a better response if you talk to the person, educate them, give them a little bit, about what this is, what this thing called Christian. You know what I'm saying?
So here's the next thing then. So let's take this a little bit further. So if a person is coming up to you in that manner, right? And this is not just for LGBTQIA+. This is for everybody within their own sexuality. How do you feel comfortable expressing your sexuality with anybody within the church, within the confines of the church, within the construct of the church, without you then having to hear, oh no, you need to be delivered. You're not safe for real.
But you can't though.
But that's why. But why can't you? Go ahead, Jamel.
I feel like this. I can do what I want to do because I'm a grown man, and as a grown man, you cannot tell me as a grown man what to do because you are not my parent, number one. And number two, you are not God. So I'm going to express myself the way that I feel that I should express myself at the time. That takes a certain type of bravery. It takes a certain type of stance. It takes being a grown man or a grown woman is about you standing in your identity as such. I am this, and you can't change that. Because I am grown,
okay,
you have to approach
okay, I get
me
it now. Okay.
in a way.
I get it now.
Yeah,
Okay.
you have to approach me in a way where I'm going to hear you respectfully rather than tune you out disrespectfully.
You better say
and
that.
And if you can't do that, then I'm going to have to remove you out of my presence or remove myself out of your presence.
Either one.
I must be respected. As a man, I must be respected. I don't care what your ideology is. If you come to me in the intention of respect, it will come across. I'll feel it. If you come across to me in the intention of disrespect and trying to embarrass me, you could get slapped.
You could.
Okay.
With all the fivefold.
And my thing is, the choice is yours. The choice is yours. That's not on me. That's on you.
On you. Hello. Because I'm giving you the option, and I'm giving you you need to exercise your critical thinking. Okay.
Okay.
And
Now I
understand.
Okay. Now I understand. Now I understand. But I get it.
I got a couple of things that I need to get out because I've been holding them for a minute. When we talk about autonomy and critical thinking skills, those types of things, we do have to understand the psychological portion of that is that there is a window that opens up in a child's at certain ages where those things are built upon. And if you miss that window, then it has to come around again. So when you start to talk about autonomy and critical thinking, if the child missed that window to be able to build that, then they don't have the critical thinking skills or the skills of autonomy to be able to make those types of decisions. That was the first point I wanted to make.
All right, number one.
The second point that I wanted to make was about change. Change starts in the heart, and God is the only one that can place that change there. He will put something in you and shift you and shake you and make you want to change. Change is not something that you just like, oh, I'm going to change. It's something, when we're talking about the core of us, it's something that God places in us that makes us want to change. That was the second thing I wanted to say, because we were talking about deliverance and sexuality, and when you want to be delivered. Kia, I know you don't like using the word delivered from sexuality. The third point I wanted to,
but go ahead.
I understand.
Okay.
The third thing I wanted to say is I totally agree with Jamel. I hope I said his name right.
Yes.
Is that you have to respect and be able to stand in your truth. And one thing God has taught me through this journey that I have been on, and being comfortable in being a lesbian woman and being in church, was that I live in my authentic truth of who I am. But I'm not flaunting it in front of the church. Now, if I'm dating somebody, do I bring them to church with me? Yes, because that's my life. Church is a part of my life. And so if you're going to be with me, you're going to experience a part of my life. No, you can't be separate from this part of my life because it's a great portion of my life. So do I bring them to church with me? Yes, I do. I do not flaunt. I'm not out there flaunting my sexuality, I'm gay and all. I'm not doing all that, and over time, there was a small portion of time that some of the members, not my pastor, but some of the members would kind of snorkel and say little things and stuff like that. And when they realize that I have two personalities, Kia, you know about this. I have 2 personalities, and you get the nice side or you get the more masculine side. And so they started to experience this side of me that was more masculine, and they had to realize that they had to respect my position. I'm not trying to put this on y'all. I'm not saying y'all have to do this, any of that. But this is where I am, and this is my authentic truth, and I'm going to walk in this until God says, you know, daughter, it's time for you to come on, let's sit down, have a conversation. But in my living in my authentic truth allowed me to be honest, not just with myself, not just with others, but also be honest with God. And I think when you get to the position of being able to live in your authentic truth and not just be honest with others, but be honest with God, then no one can say anything to sway you, change you. Even when the whole church, I had a whole church of people coming up against me, trying to muddle my name and say all manners of stuff of me, and I never changed. I stood in my truth, and I stood there, and I know that God blessed me through that, if that all makes sense.
It does, but let me ask you, when you say you're not flaunting, what does flaunting
Yeah, I was
mean?
getting ready to, yeah.
You know how some people are
I feel like I know what she's trying to say.
yeah,
I'll let you know. Shit.
You know, straight people when they most straight, let me say it this way.
Okay.
Most straight people, you ain't got to say, oh, you straight. You understand? And they're not like making it, everything is about me being gay. Everything doesn't evolve around me being gay, because I'm more than just a gay woman or a lesbian woman. Everything is not centered around that. And you have some people in the church that everything is like center of attention. I'm gay, and it's the air, and I can't explain it, but you can see it.
Yeah, I'm thinking you mean flaunting, being like, you feel me, you know, one of the, when the pastor says something nice, yes, pastor, I can get, like, you know, I'm thinking that's what you mean by flaunting, like, as far as.
I mean that, but I mean just being, like, I just know how to be me, and what's not at the forefront of me being me.
You're not gonna be able to do all that extra shit because you are who you are.
Exactly. Right? I'm comfortable in my position. You know, Kia, you saw me in church, you saw me out of church. You know, and I just don't. I'm even toned.
But see, I think respectfully, your viewpoint is heteronormative, and I have to, with respect.
My viewpoint is not heteronormal. My viewpoint is not heteronormal, and I don't want anyone to take. I don't want anyone to ever take that my viewpoint is heteronormal. What I'm saying is, my lifestyle. I don't have to define who I am through my lifestyle, because I'm more than just a lesbian woman. I am a mother. I am a daughter. I am a sister. I am a minister. I am all these things, businesswoman. I am all these things. And when the first thing you see in me is that I'm flaunting, and what I mean flaunting is just everything, everything, not somebody that's proud to be lesbian. I'm proud to be lesbian. I don't live, you know, I don't shy away from that. But I'm not flaunting it all around. And that's the best way that I can put it.
No, I agree what you're saying.
Okay, I don't live in heterosexual. I don't live in heterosexual norms. And I don't want anybody to put that on me. Okay, that's what I'm saying.
So I mean, I can respect that may not be what you want, but the reality of that is.
Now, see, sweetheart, you don't get to tell me. You don't get to tell me who I am.
Let me finish.
You
I'm
don't
not telling
know.
you who you are. I'm talking about this.
No, but you
I'm
said
speaking about
I
the statement
respectfully no.
specifically.
See, because
No,
you've been doing this all
I'm
night.
speaking about the statement.
No,
I
but
haven't
you've
even
been
been on here
doing
all
that
night.
all
I haven't
night,
even
and
been on
I'm
here
not going to
40
let
minutes.
you. I'm not that
No,
person.
I just got here. I just got here. What do you mean?
Okay,
I
one
haven't even
second.
been here all night. I haven't even been here all night. And again, I said the sentence, not you. I said I'm speaking specifically to flaunting. I'm speaking specifically to, when you make someone's identity and the word flaunt or flamboyant synonymous, because flamboyancy and flaunting are not necessarily relative to the identity of that
Listen,
person.
we're not going to sit here on this podcast and act like gay people have LGBTQIA plus do not sit out here and flaunt and do not flaunt and make themselves a bigger idea. We got to tell the truth, and when we tell the truth, we need to tell the truth on both sides.
No. May I finish? Okay, so I understand, and again, I can respect that. However, the same way that different ideologies or different ways of acting are accepted in different cultures are the same level of acceptance that has to be associated and respected about these cultures. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. There is no difference between a black woman, a black cisgender heterosexual woman. We don't say that it's a problem when she says, "Woo, praise the Lord. Go ahead, pastor. Preach, pastor. You said that, pastor. I love it. Go ahead, pastor." But it's flamboyant because a gay person or a trans woman say, "Okay, say that, pastor.
I didn't say
that's
that.
Right."
Yeah, that wasn't Gail's statement. That was Duke's statement when
No,
he was trying to understand.
I understand what was said, but I'm only speaking to the term flamboyant, or attributing the culture for how someone operates in terms of calling it flamboyant, because again, that example is no different from someone else praising God the way they may, or someone else doing something the way they may. And I think that this kind of goes back to the conversation when we had it on the panel last week, or whenever we had it, Nakia, when I said that adults especially have the right to operate without judgment. If I want to go to church and say, "Ooh, pastor, you better preach that," I live. That's my right. It's not for you to label me or label an entire group of people as flamboyant, because that's how they act culturally. It's no different. My black grandmother praises Lord and say, "Ooh, praise the Lord," and gay people say, "Ooh, girl." That's just what it is. That doesn't necessarily, mean flamboyant. However, I am going to agree with you, Gail, to the point of, sometimes gay people do the most. However,
they do. Please.
But again, sometimes straight people do the most. It's all based on individual perception. The same way you may feel, the judgment that one has about a woman in a hoochie mama skirt is the same place that judgment for a man who's walking down the street with a purse. It's the same. It's come from the same place of judgment. But my personal point and bottom line, and bottom line is that they have that right.
You're right. I mean, listen, the truth of the matter is we see a lot of it in the church, whether it's coming from someone that is from the LGBTQIA community or from the heterosexual community. We see a lot of extraness. We see a lot, and it is what it is. I think it was trying to drive out an understanding of the terminology used as far as flaunt, but I think I understand what Gail was saying when she was saying the word flaunt, because Gail didn't necessarily use flamboyant. Duke kind of threw in
flaunt. Excuse me. Flaunt.
Yeah, it was flaunt.
Right.
So I think basically what Gail was basically saying is that who I am is not on display for you to judge. Gail, am I wrong?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
So because who I am is not on display for you to judge, I don't need to flaunt who I am around you. That's like me. Like I can be dating somebody, but I'll go to church and look single as fuck. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like because that's that what I do in the confines of my own home and in my own personal time, I might not want to show that or flaunt it off to you in a
But that's
church.
not relative. That's not necessarily relative. That's not a conversation that heterosexual people even have to have, and that's what I'm trying to explain in this
No, I
moment.
get that. That was one of the reasons why I asked Gail, what do you mean by flaunt? Because what I really wanted to say was it does not matter because that's not even something that we should even be concerned with because at the end of the day, whether you flaunt or not is your own personal decision to flaunt. That's part of the reason why I said like there's certain things that I just from my own personal self I find that a lot of people that are part of the LGBTQIA community,
LGBTQ, man. It's either you gay
listen,
or
you
not.
got to
Man.
add it up in here, okay? They
All this
added some
QI
letters, so
shit,
we gotta
man.
add the letters. But what I'm saying is, you stupid. What I'm saying is that when you're part of the community and then you do come into the church, you begin to feel that you have to hide certain aspects and factors, and even take into consideration certain things that a person that is heterosexual just might not necessarily take into consideration. Listen, we done seen it all, and that's why one of my next questions really was for this was, is there a warped or perverse sexuality taught or underlying in the church? And we're kind of leaning into that direction because of the fact that if I teach you that how you identify yourself, how you feel within your own human sexuality is perverse, then therefore that's the attitude in which I'm going to foster within you, that it's wrong, it's perverse, it's not right. You know what I'm saying? But then if I teach you that it's wrong, but yet there is something else, then you begin to have a warped perception of even yourself. So, but if I teach you that you are a human being and you're allowed to have your own personal thoughts and you're allowed to have your own personal feelings and you're allowed to have X, Y, and Z, then therefore it then can turn into something that can actually be healthy because I'm allowing you to grow into who you are. So that's kind of like where I wanted to go. That was like my fourth and my good fifth question pertaining this whole thing is, you know, at what stage is human sexuality look healthy in the church, and at what part is it considered warped or can be perverse, or some type of underlying undertone within the church, and how do we turn that around into making it something that truly is healthy? You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, we have to have healthy conversations about it because there's so much that's going on that we're not necessarily discussing. And I mean, this is not just about homosexuality. It actually, I mean, there are rapists, there are child molesters. You understand what I'm saying? There are men that are literally sitting up here, abusing women, committing adultery, and the list goes on. And a lot of that has a lot to do with what they have been seeing, what they have been taught, and it has shaped them into being this form of a toxic person. And it goes for men and women. I have heard of some horror stories of women, in the church abusing men and abusing women. And, we've had this for so long that we just don't talk about it. We say, no, we can't talk about that. We can't talk about that outside. This got to stay in the house. And no, it's time to talk about everything outside because it's the things that keep staying in the house don't never get uncovered. So that's where I'm at. And if anybody has any opinion on that.
Well, I'll go ahead and I'll probably make this my last statement of the night. I think the only way to have a healthy conversation or a healthy view on sexuality, whether it be in the church or out of the church, is that we have to explore our past traumas and deal with that. I think a lot of times our past traumas have a lot to do with how we view ourselves as far as identity and sexuality, whether you're gay, straight, or whatever you may be. And so a lot of times, like I said before, I don't know if I said it here, but I'll give you an example. I was watching the Mary Mary show or Meet the Campbells. I was watching something like that, and one of the daughters got mad about not being able to change their room around. And the mom said, "You better fix your face before you don't get anything." And when we start telling people how they can feel, what they can do, how they supposed to live, and never give them the opportunity to explore the world. You notice 2-year-olds. One thing you'll notice about babies up until about the age of 2 to 3, as they grow, they start to explore the world. They want to touch more things. They want to taste more things, put things in their mouth. They are exploring the world. That's how they're exploring. And when we stop children from exploring, we stop them from growing into healthy individuals. And our job as people, I'm not going to even say parents, our job as people, because it takes a village to raise a child, is to be able to allow them to explore and guide them, not really try to control them. And I say that all in the context because as we get older, we live out those things that in our childhood, even that in our childhood that has harmed us. And we become unhealthy adults. And then we see the control and things displayed as we're talking about in the church. Now we have a lot of people trying to control different things. You have, like you talked about, the rapists and the rapist and molestation, and just strong gender confines of men are supposed to be leaders and the pastors, and women are not supposed to preach in the church. Like all those things comes from things that we've seen over time in our life and our experience, and we take that in. And so we have to have a healthy conversation around all of that, but we have to explore the trauma that put us there.
I can agree. I definitely can agree with the exploring some of the past trauma and actually coming to a level of healing and resolve of the past trauma in order for you to then be able to embrace a healthy sexuality. Because if you don't, then you actually can form a sexuality that is unhealthy even unto your own self. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. Anyone else? Marcus?
Sorry, I was listening. I had myself on mute. I mean, I can add to what she was saying. Even though a part of it I don't agree with. I do believe that we need boundaries. Because without boundaries, we're just going to be everywhere. Um, and she said something earlier. Well, I can't remember the whole thing, and I don't want to take her out of context. So I will say, the church needs boundaries. We need boundaries in our home. We need boundaries in our community. That's the only way everything is going to work. One of the things that I struggle with is individuals with opinions. And when I mean opinions, if I want to be somewhere where I'm accepted, I go there. If I go somewhere where I know they're not comfortable where I'm at, I can't force them to change who they are to make me feel comfortable. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. And I think that causes unnecessary friction, which could lead to trauma. So as you were saying about what does healthy sexuality look like in the church, it's going to take respect from everyone. Everyone has to respect one another. If you desire to go to, I guess you would say, old-fashioned church or traditional church, I don't want to be offensive. They don't really care for certain things. Maybe you need to find another church. There are churches out there that are progressive. I've been to them. I've been to traditional churches, and yeah, that's, in my opinion, that's the only way we're going to see healthy sexualities. If everyone can have respect for one another, then maybe we can have that conversation. Maybe then, all right, some churches who are just very traditional, Leviticus to the T, You know, women don't wear anything pertaining to a man. You know, no makeup. You know, it's very traditional. Maybe we can have that conversation, but I don't believe we'll ever have anything healthy if we don't have respect for one another.
Mm-hmm.
And that's both sides.
And he went on mute with that. Okay.
Well,
You told us to.
He said he in mute.
Yes. I agree with what Marcus, that's your name? Yeah, I agree with what Marcus said. As far as we have to, the first step is for the people to get off their high horses. I feel like everybody needs to be understanding. 3, everybody needs to act like they shit don't stink. I feel like that's, yeah, come on. Everybody needs to act like, like they shit don't stink. It's sad to the point where I feel like it's never gonna change, honestly. I'm gonna be honest. I'm trying to be cute, but let me not be cute. Dad, mom, sorry. I feel like it's not gonna change.
Hold up. Okay, go ahead.
I feel like it's never going to change. I feel like it's going to be a situation where it's going to be ongoing. It's this topic, and I'm glad that a lot of people don't have the balls to do what you did. A lot of people, don't get on platforms like this and speak about something that's so, I feel like, which is one of the biggest issues in, church period. But it's never going to change. I feel like people are still going to do what they want to do, feel how they want to feel. People are going to still have their own opinions. People are going to be Leviticus down, even though they're eating shrimp at every fucking crab broil. But we're not going to go there. Yeah, I feel like, people are going to continue to be judgmental. People are going to continue to do what they want to do. But at the end of the day, it's up to us to be comfortable within ourselves, whether it be straight, gay, bi, trans, whoever you may be. I feel like it's up to us to be comfortable with ourselves and for us to have our own relationship with God and come to a point where my only validation and or anything comes from thine Christ. So that's basically where it is. I mean, that's how I feel. It's never going to change. People are still going to do what they want to do. Like, regardless of, we can sit here and have these platforms and conversations, but the church, you have to understand, this is years of, you feel me? Like, shit. It's years of judgmental behavior, years of, practiced habits, years of, things that have been happening in the church. So it's going to take Jesus Christ himself to come in and,
all jokes aside, I'm going to tell you what it's going to take. It's going to take people to stop continuously falling for the nonsense that they have been taught and told that you can clearly understand is just not real and it's not true. But until we utilize the brain that we actually do have, and until we utilize the thinking skills that we actually have cultivated, we will constantly fall into the same old routine of just believing what someone says they found on YouTube because the video said this is what it is. And one of the things that, and I'm going to summarize all of this because the hour has been far spent, as they say in the church, where when they're about to wrap it on up.
The benediction is on its way.
Hello, because it got to sum it all. That's why I was right. That's why I was taking these notes. But I think one of the reasons why I asked is, can it be perverse and or warped? Is because what becomes warped and what then becomes perverse actually then trickles down onto the people. And then you have, I have seen some of the most perverse people run around the church screaming, jumping, shouting, stomping, whatever, all of this stuff. And then as soon as you leave the building, you ain't even out the parking lot and you acting a whole fool in the parking lot, okay? And I do believe that it does go back to what Gail said, where people are not dealing with their past traumas. You have men and women alike inside of the church that have truly been raped, that have been molested, that have seen things within their own households that they then have internalized, and then it becomes who they are. And then they project that onto other people, or they do things to people where they then repeat that same behavior of molestation and rape, and then adultery and physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, controlling, manipulation. All these things are cultivated, and then we don't want to discuss what the issues are, because you're basically told, if you talk about it, you're the problem. If you talk about it, you're the witch. If you talk about it, you are the reason why the church is this, that, and the third. And it's like, and you can't group the church as a whole. You need to only speak. No, I'm not grouping the church as a whole, because the honest to God truth is that the church of the true and living God is a wonderful and great organism that actually knows how to work together. It's, for me, these man-made concepts of churches that have come together and have twisted and distorted the actual way in which the church should be ran, for the simple fact that we don't understand how to allow people to use their brain and their knowledge. My job is to feed you. So my job, right, is to basically give you your good basic instructions and tell you this is what it says in the book. Here's how it is, right? It is then your job to apply it to your life. But if I don't allow you the opportunity to apply these things to your life, then I'm actually doing you a great disservice, and I'm not even helping you. But if I constantly try to force feed all of this crap into your brain, all of this crap into your mind, all of this crap into you, to the point where your heart isn't even in it, but your mouth is speaking words that your heart is far away from, is that necessarily pleasing to anybody? No, because it's not even pleasing to God. You're actually displeasing him. You're actually dishonoring him, because at the end of the day, you're not even truly believing all the things in which you are saying. So one of the things I wanted to talk about human sexuality as it pertained to the church is because we have to begin to understand that when you have a people that are literally taught within the confines of a structure. And like Jamel said something that was great, because he said, I had an understanding leader, and a leader that had wisdom, and a leader that had knowledge. So because he had a leader that had wisdom and knowledge, they were able to ask certain questions so that they would not be repressed and suppressed within their sexuality, and so that they would be able to be free enough to ask questions and have a safe place to talk about things. But you do have leaders that are not as understanding, they're not as progressive, they're not as, full of wisdom, to the point where if you even bring it up to them, you're going to hell, you know what, no, you need to go repent. I'm gonna need you to go at that altar. We're gonna get the oil and we're gonna pray this thing off of you, because that is impure. Those are impure thoughts, and you need to cast those thoughts. Oh no, we can't do that. No, where is your armor? And you get all this stuff just poured into you. And the simple thing is, like, I was literally just asking a question, and now you're telling me I can't even ask a question. You're telling me I can't even be who I am. You're telling me that who I am is wrong, and who you want me to be doesn't feel right to me, but you're saying that is right to you. So therefore I need to do what's right for you, but not what's right for me. And it just creates a whole entire bundle of confusion that is actually unnecessary, and it's something that no one absolutely needs. But until we begin to truly learn how to break these cycles, and this cycle is truly hindering people. You know what I'm saying? It is a cycle that is truly hindering people. And what's going to happen is that if we don't break it now, that's what I'm saying. Everybody says the church is going to be the church, but this is why we do create platforms like this, so that we can begin to bring awareness to the fact that it doesn't need to stay that way. There is reformation, there can be change. And if we begin to truly embrace people and allow them to be free. How dare you tell me that there is liberty in Christ Jesus? It's in the word. And then you try to make me bound by your religious beliefs. How dare you tell me that there is liberty in Christ Jesus, but then you make me bound by your rules and all of your dictatorship and all of your instructions, and how you tell me I should speak, and how you tell me I should dress, how you tell me the type of makeup I should wear, how I should wear my hair. how my sexuality should be. Don't display this. Don't show that. No, you can't be with a woman because you're a woman. No, you can't be with a man because you're a man. No, 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 no. No, you're a boy. You have to dress like a boy. No, you can't dress like a woman. No, no, that is an abomination before God, and you're gonna burn in a lake of fire. That's what. And you begin to tell people
Good
all.
old lake, honey.
Yes, because they will throw you in heaven. They will. The church will literally. The people will try and put you in heaven and hell, knowing damn well they don't have a heaven or hell to put you in because they're not living your life. They are not truly the ones that can place you there. The only one that can is God. But you mean to tell me that you're going to place me somewhere without even knowing all the good that is in my heart, without knowing all the good that I have done? I probably have done more good than you have ever done in your life, let alone within the last 5 minutes. But you're telling me I'm going to hell because I am who I am?
Shit, see you there. Shoot.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that, but you have these pastors that are rapists, they're molesters, they are bigamists, they are adulterers, they are a whole bunch of other, they are gay. You know what I'm saying? And doing a lot of different things. They are thieves. You know what I'm saying? Because some of the stuff that goes on. I mean, like I said on a post the other day, I said somebody was asking a question about tithes, and I said, y'all be surprised how much of your tithe money when you pay for these big super duper conferences and all this extra stuff. You'd be surprised how much of your tithe money actually goes towards the prostitutes that they hire in order to keep the men pleased at these big conferences that all these pastors come in from. You know, we foster prostitution in the church. It is a known fact that there is prostitution in the church, that when these men go away and they flying all here and there, oh, we going to this big conference, but your wife got to stay at home. No, boo, you better go because there could be a prostitute sitting there waiting for him for when he get back at that hotel room. We don't want to talk about that stuff because that is a warped version of sexuality that is telling these people that this is normal. And it's not. And it's not okay because it's actually disrespectful to your whole wife and to your whole family. But it doesn't become a problem until you actually get caught.
These niggas is wild.
And then once you get caught, it then becomes a problem of the wife because something is wrong with her. It's never you.
Or she didn't do something, or she locked some shit.
You understand what I'm saying? But that's where we get into this warped and perverted version of human sexuality, because when you actually look at it, it's what have they seen? That's why what Gail said about past traumas, it is the truth. Anytime when you have to deal with something that becomes perverted and warped, you have to begin to look back and say, what did you see? What did you experience? What did you feel? What were the behaviors that were around you? All of these things, because there are some things that it's not about whether it's normal or not. Some things are just wrong. You know what I'm saying? And when you act out in such a way, you have to learn how to go back and you have to learn how to actually deal with that. You know, and a part of that is becoming real and tearing the actual whole muzzle off and stop acting like you can't speak your mind and tell the truth of what is actually going on. Because the reason why we can't get anywhere and the reason why all these we see it scandal after scandal. We read about it, we see it, we hear about it, we see all of this stuff. And all these scandals are happening because we don't want to get down to the root cause of the issue. And a lot of this stuff is rooted in human sexuality. People don't know their identity, and because they don't know their identity, they are struggling in real life to figure that out. So they just do all types of foolery and crazy stuff, and then boom, here we are. You know, so I truly want to thank you guys for joining in today. Because this is not,
if I could just in closing, just make a remark. I just wanted to say that I completely agree with everything that you just said, Nakia. And I want to encourage anyone watching this process over the last couple of weeks as it relates to human sexuality in the church. I just want to encourage anyone who may be feeling that they are bound by the terms, words, opinions, and judgments of others. It's okay for you to express yourself in any way that you see fit. There are many ways to skin a cat. It's so many different ways to praise God. It's not one way to do it. So if you decide you want to wear blue hair and purple eyebrows and flaunt outwardly, then baby, you do that. If you decide you want to be conservative and be private, then baby, you do that as well. But at the end of the day, you have the right to express yourself. And it does not matter who is uncomfortable, whether they're from your community or not. If you're flaunting or outwardly expressing yourself, you do you. And if they got a problem with it, you tell them to come holler at Sade Wintervine. Thank you so much, Nakia.
You
The
are
shade is
welcome,
real.
girl.
I love it.
Yeah, flaunting is not the best thing, and I will always stand against flaunting. You are the whole person, and you are multifaceted. And if only thing that you can do is flaunt your sexuality, then you have a warped way of seeing your own self.
I do agree with that.
Well, I
As
thought that you just well, what I'm not going to do with you is go back and forth, first of all, and secondly, you know, again, what I think, I'm going to reiterate what I just said. You people have the right to express yourself in the way that fits for you as an individual. Don't allow people like that and their opinions to keep you from expressing yourself outwardly. Whatever you want to flaunt, whatever you want to do. If you're not a thief, if you're not a murderer, if you're not sleeping with the neighbor's husband, if you're not hurting any children, if you're not stealing from communities, if you're not bashing old ladies up their head, baby, flaunt you all you want to. Period.
Amen. Nakia.
Period. And don't. And this goes for the queer community. And I know you probably will be upset with me, but again, no shade. That's a heteronormative mindset for a queer person to tell another.
That is not a heterosexual norm mindset. That is your opinion. That's what it is. That is your opinion. That is your opinion. And I will keep on saying that that's your opinion. Do not push your opinion. Just like you don't want others pushing their opinion on you, don't push your opinion on other people. You think it's a heterosexual norm thinking. However you want to classify it. Whatever way you want to classify it, but that is your thought. That is your thought process. And other people have different thought processes. And that's why I said
but
that.
Sweetie, but sweetheart, Sade, like the live was getting ready to be wrapped up, Budo.
Really quickly. So again, another example of heteronormative is when someone is gay or someone is
don't put your views.
The live is getting ready to be done though, Sade,
baby, don't put your views on me. Don't put your views on me. That's your view. That's not your view, and I base everything in truth. So that's your view, and I would appreciate. I hear every word you're saying. I will appreciate you not putting your views.
Oh no, we're not about to give that.
Everybody, and continue to go until you let me say what I want to say, because you were the one who came at me with
you're the one who you started that.
No, excuse me. Nope.
All right, one second.
Let me say what I want to say.
One second.
Let me say what I want to say, because as a matter of fact, excuse me, Nakia, because this woman has said that I was disrespectful to people this whole panel, when in fact I was quiet 90% of this panel, and I've only said something 3 times. So first of all, again, when you initially reacted to what I said, you came at it in a way where you were offended. But at the end of the day, regardless if you would like to accept it or not, that is adjacent to
and whether or not, see, there you go. You're pushing your views on somebody. I'm not going to let you finish pushing your view on me. I'm not. And I'm going to stand up for that.
No, I did not. I never cut you off.
Yes,
I never interrupted you. You're going to let me say what I want to say.
I don't have to let you do anything. I got to stay black and die.
No, Nakia, mute this lady and let me say what I need to say.
Can we agree to disagree, Sade? Sade, can we agree?
She doesn't have to do anything to me.
Let me say this. I think so.
I would like to say what I just want to say. I just want to say my statement. That's it. And you can respond to it whether you like it or not. I could care less, boo. My point is, and this is not for you.
Baby, I'm not your boo.
No, this is not for you. This is for the viewers. I'm not addressing you. Again, for the record. For everyone out there listening, I'm the one with the degree in sociology. Excuse me. I'm the one with the degree in sociology.
You're not the only one, sweetheart. Sweetheart, you're not the only one.
No, let me just speak. Let me just speak, please.
Don't out credentials like you the only one. Don't throw out credentials like you're the only one who have some.
What I don't want us to do is I don't want us to, but here's what I don't want. I don't want us to argue either. I do not believe that.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Nakia.
What I do think that this is where I have known Gail for many years, right? So
I just want to speak for myself. That's
what I am going to say is that a heteronormative mind frame is just basically telling someone that their point of view is something that promotes something that is classified as a normal way for heterosexuality or a preferred sexual orientation. I don't believe that that was Gail's point when she said no, that the terminology.
No, and that's not what I wasn't saying that was her point. I was not saying that was her point at all. I was never putting my opinion onto her. I was using the term or the word. And when I initially said the word, yes, Gail, I apologize. I said flamboyant when you said flaunt. I apologize for taking that out of context, but I was not speaking about your opinion and your viewpoints. What I was saying was that polices people into a box in terms of not expressing themselves. And I was just going to give an example of how that relates to heteronormative. Another example of that is how, for instance, with the age gap generationally, for instance, queer people usually 35 and up who are not a part of the millennial generation will normally say, you know, well, I'm gay, I'm lesbian, I'm trans, but when I go around my family, I turn it down out of respect for them. And maybe that's the best practice. That is a heteronormative piece of advice. Rather, you would like to accept that word when you say it's best to not flaunt or it's best to not do this, that then has a negative connotation that's heteronormative, that oppresses a person to feel like they cannot express themselves in the way that they feel. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I would respectfully disagree. Is if I choose not to be, I just choose to respect others around me, and I think that comes from whatchamacallit of respect, and that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I
understand what you're saying.
I think something got taken out of context between you and I, because when we were on the panel last week, we pretty much agreed with everything that one another said. So I'm not really quite sure where the breach came in that point, but I'm not personally attacking your views. I'm just coming from a place of wanting to use the correct verbiage to not make someone think that maybe, oh, well, maybe I'm expressing myself wrong because I feel happiest when I am flaunting or expressing myself outwardly. That's all that I'm saying.
Marcus had his finger up. Marcus had that good church finger up. Yes, Marcus. Because as I was looking at.
So I just wanted just to thank you again, Nakia, for having us on the past couple of weeks. I know at times we were a little wild with our mouths, but the muzzle is off. I like to also thank all the other co-hosts. I really learned a lot over these past couple of weeks. I really learned a lot, and I'm appreciative of the moment and the knowledge you all spit. So I'm going to close for me and saying I encourage you all to keep being trailblazers, because trailblazing, it requires you to be fit for the journey. Don't let any leech deplete you of your energy. Also, opinions don't matter, mentors do. Mentors shape, opinions take up space or add weight. You guys do what you're going to do. Stay safe. Feel love. I love you. Even if we might not agree, I still love you. I ain't going to shun not one person on here. Like I said, I had my opinion and my views, and I learned. Thank you for your knowledge. I appreciate every single person that I had the opportunity to communicate and socialize with. I learned so much, and it's not going to just help me on my journey, but it's going to help me in the people in my worldview, my sphere that I might encounter. So continue trailblazing. I appreciate every one of you. Keep being knowledgeable because you're helping shape other people's worldviews. And I thank you all so much.
You are welcome. Thank you, Marcus. I really appreciate you, and even, you know, all of your commentary, all of your looks, all of your laughs, all of everything, everything. Because I know one thing, I'm observant and I watch everything. Duke, do you have anything that you would like to add?
Y'all some shady motherfuckers in this shit. But no, let me say no. No, but what I do want to say is to anybody who is my age, you know, 21 or younger, you know, you're dope. Fuck everybody. Fuck their opinions. Fuck what they gotta say. You are who you are. You do who you are. Fuck the church. But not, well, their opinions. Let's say that.
Okay, because you better clean that up.
Sorry. Yeah. But like I said, be who you are. Be what you want to be. However you choose to see it. However you choose to feel it. It's you. You feel me? And you know. That's it, pretty much. Be you, be authentically you. Fuck everybody how they feel. And it's coming from a PK who deal with this shit often. So
you do. We're gonna have another conversation about that.
Yo, he looking at me like, yo, a PK saying this? Yeah, I know, bro. Some real shit.
And trust me, they know his mouth very well.
Oh yes. Okay. I've been smacked a couple times.
Yes. Gail, any closing remarks?
My closing remark is that we deal with ourselves on a daily basis. Take time to examine who we are and what we display out in this world. The only way to make the world better and start change is you be the agent of change that you want to be, that you want to see.
Yes.
I like that. Sade, any additional closing remarks or your closings?
I want to say, you know, for anybody watching and for anyone who may have followed me over here from have begun following the Muzzle is Off podcast from the platform on last week. Thank you for supporting my friend, my client, you know, someone who I know that I can come to in times of darkness. First of all, thank you for supporting her. But in closing, I want to say something that is, I think is very necessary because we tend to all forget sometimes, and I'm generally the catalyst for the unpopular but true opinion because I can handle it, almost like what very much so like what Mark is saying. So what I want everyone to remember and to keep in mind is that kindness does not necessarily always feel good, okay? Kindness sometimes is you saying to the person, hey, girl, you got spinach in your teeth. Or, hey, girl, your skirt is stuck to your pantyhose. You need to pull it down. Or, hey, girl, you're walking with toilet paper at the bottom of your shoe, you know? And at the end of the day, what happens is that no matter who we are, no matter what life we came from, no matter what culture we identify with, when those types of criticisms come across, even though someone is helping us, we all feel stupid and crazy or some way in the moment because we thought we were good, okay? Kindness is sometimes calling people on their shit. Kindness is sometimes calling things for exactly what they are, even when they feel uncomfortable. So what I want everyone to understand is that this is not, I celebrate Gail. Everything Gail said last week, I praised and agreed with publicly and behind closed doors with Nakia, okay? So what I want everyone to understand is that I celebrate that woman. This is not a tick for tat. We are here with a common goal to spread knowledge and breach bridges across tables among people and demographics that may necessarily not be able to have conversations. So I just wanted to close out on that, and that I absolutely have respect for your opinion, Gail, and I hope that we can be on a panel and talk about different things moving forward, because a lot of what you said last week have had an impact on me, and I just wanted to say that and be very clear with that in closing, and not
we love a kumbaya, okay?
I can't with Duke. I mean, I am a person. I'm most of the time, I think this might be Kia's first or second time seeing me like this upset. I just don't like people. I live outside of the box. Right. And I have to respond to your last comment because thank you. Number one, I appreciate that you have been able to gain some information and use that and apply it to your life. I definitely have gained some knowledge, wisdom, and understanding through these conversations. But I want to say that we can be nice to people, even if we're telling them that there's spinach in their teeth and they have their
Absolutely.
pantyhose and some. It is the way that we say things that becomes
I agree.
offensive to others. So it's not about
I agree.
whether or not what we said, but it's how we say it. You could pull a person to the side and say, girl, you know, you got some spinach in your teeth. You
No,
know,
but let me say this, because let me tell what y'all did not do, okay? Which is why I had to change how I wear my good red lipstick, okay? Now I'm calling all y'all out, okay? What y'all did not do was, ain't not near none of y'all told me, I think it was during the first podcast, not near none of y'all told me that my good Invisalign had a little bit of red smudge on it, okay? I had to look at it. Look, it wasn't last week. It was the very first one, and ain't
I
nobody
ain't pay
tell
no
me that.
attention to it.
Okay? See what I'm saying? See what happens when you don't pay attention to what's going on, and then boom, I had a little red smudge on my good Invisalign, and ain't nobody pulled me, sister girl. You might want to hit that real quick and send me a message on a good messenger or nothing. Y'all know I keep checking my messenger. But anyway, here's what I do. Oh, Gail, when you finish, I'm sorry.
I think I'm finished. I just want to say we have to be careful in how we say things to others. It has a great impact. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Many people don't remember what you said, but they remember the attitude in which you delivered it in.
I can definitely get with that, because Lord knows some people have delivered some of the worst messages to me in the worst way, and they got it right back at them 100-fold. That's not the point, though. Here's what I will say. One of the things that I truly do appreciate about even this entire month of talking about human sexuality is our ability to be open to discuss it, and discuss it in a forum in which, listen, we might not all understand each other. We might not all agree with each other. We might not all, whatever, but we can come to a common ground and see what each other is actually saying. And that's my point in actually even starting this whole thing. This was literally my first month. So thank y'all for rocking out with me for the first month. There will be more the next week, which will be, I think that's going to be July 1st or whatever that date is going to be, or July 1st, I believe. And we're going to begin talking about relationships, and it's going to get that much more fiery. It's going to get that much more testy. It's going to get that way, because this is real people having real conversations about real life situations that we have typically not openly discussed. We don't openly discuss human sexuality in the church, which is the reason why I wanted to bring it back for a part 2, because I felt like the part 1 didn't do it the justice that it actually needed. And I wanted to bring it back for a part 2, and I brought it back for a part 2. And I invited Duke because Duke is young, and I knew Duke grew up in the church, and he's 21 years old, and he's part of that millennial, whatever that age group. I don't know what his age group is called, but that group right there. And then I brought in all of us, because we all come from a diverse background. I probably happened to be one, I wasn't necessarily raised up in the church. I wasn't raised in the church, but I was raised with godly principles. It just wasn't in the confines of the church. So my mother allowed me to experience certain things in life, and based on her rules, based on what she thought, and based on what, her guidance was, and all of the talks that we had, even her and my dad would, a lot of, kid, you got to be careful, because, jealousy breeds contempt. I had lessons like that to learn and grow up with in life, so that I was able to be practical in how I was able to apply. What I will say is that when I came into the church world, there were certain things that I was not prepared for at all. And some of what I was not prepared for actually hindered and hurt me, but it also pushed me and propelled me in order to grow me and mature me in the things of God, so that I wasn't looking towards man for certain things, that I learned how to literally solely depend on and rely on God in ways, because some of the things that I experienced just were not they just was wrong. So it is what it is. It was wrong. You know what I'm saying? It's wrong to tell a woman that she can't dress a certain way. You know what I'm saying? It's wrong to tell somebody that they can't be a certain way. It's wrong to tell somebody they can't feel a certain way. It is wrong to tell somebody they can't think a certain way. You can guide a person into the way in which you feel would be the best path for them. There's a difference between guidance and telling. And I believe that we've come from a generation of telling, and we're moving into a generation of guiding. And one of the areas that we are failing, especially in the church world, is to guide people is in their sexuality and learning to embrace who they are in all of them and accepting all of who they are, everything that makes them them, everything that makes them, smile, makes them laugh, makes them, enjoy life. We have to learn how to allow people to embrace that. If a man wants to do pottery, let him do pottery. If a man wants to do ballet, let him do ballet. If a woman wants to, I don't know, ride motorcycles or whatever the case may be, let them, things that we put into a heteronormative point of view, in a heteronormative framework, to basically say this is a behavior that is typical of a heterosexual. Or even if we put things in these types of constructs, we have to learn that what we're actually doing is we're making people bound by what we actually think. And I think that is one of the things that we have to stop doing. And that is one of the reasons why I literally started this podcast, was in order to talk about things that are not normal, and in order to break the muzzle off so that people can feel comfortable enough to talk about it and feel welcome enough to even share about it. So I thank y'all for, truly rocking with this entire podcast for this month. And we're just going to keep it moving forward, and keep growing and keep learning together, as we continue to literally, Duke said it earlier with me today. He was like, we're just going to continue to rip the muzzle off. And that's what we're going to do, because it's time out for all of this hiding. It's time out for all this being quiet. It's time out for all this, oh, I can't talk about that. Or I got to be careful when I say this. Or I can't do that. And let's be real. The only reason why I corrected Duke when he said F the church is because that's wrong. It's wrong because it's not F the church, but what we can say is F the opinions of people that try to keep us bound by what they think. Because it's not about what you think. It's about who I am and who I am going to be, because this is my identity. This is who I am at the core of me. So therefore, you can't try to change me based on your rules, your regulations, your precepts, your ideology, your theology, your doctrine, all that stuff, because half that stuff is just wrong. And that's why I said, when you truly learn how to read and research certain things, you'll begin to find out that a lot of the things that you were taught is a little wrong. And it's okay for things to be a little wrong, because that's what it is. We got history books in schools right now that are wrong. They don't teach the right history. So who said that the church had to be perfect? Nobody. But it's time for us to stop acting as if it is and begin to deal with things that truly have been hidden for so long. So I thank everybody. Thank y'all. Once again, I said we was only going to do this for an hour, and y'all have proved me wrong yet again. And I'm tired of y'all proving me wrong, because every time I start out with an hour, and the next thing you know, that thing looks at it, and it's almost 3 hours, and then I'm like, damn it. So, you know what I'm saying? That's because the muzzle had to come off. So we got a lot of stuff to say, and we got to get it all out. But you know what? I like it though. We can't put restraints on it. So we just got to let it flow. So I thank y'all again. Thank everybody for joining. Tune in next week. Like I said, we're going to dig into relationships, and it's going to be amazing. It truly is going to be amazing, because I think it's time that we do begin to talk about relationships, and not just, oh, I want to get married. No, we're not just going to talk about that. We're going to get down to the real nitty gritty things of relationships and maturity, and the things in which we experiencing while we trying to date, and all this other extra stuff that we got going on. We're going to talk about friendships. We're going to talk about associates. We're going to talk about all of that, because I think that it is important for us to literally take the muzzle off of relationships and unpack that. So thank y'all. Tune in next week, every Wednesday, 7 p.m. This is where we're going to be at. We will always have somebody here joining me as far as the panel is concerned. Y'all know I reach out to y'all at the last minute, beforehand, afterhand.
Yes, you do.
Yes, I do, and it's all right. You're always well prepared. This is how you expand your knowledge, by getting prepared at the last minute. So thank y'all, everybody. Have a good night, and like I said, tune in next week, 7 p.m. We're gonna be back at it talking relationships. Good night. Bye.